What's up, everybody? How's it going? I hope you're having a good day. Good to see you. I was trying to like transition on the beat to the full screen camera. This is Harris Heller, as I say at the beginning of every stream. This is from over on Stream Beats by Harris Heller. I do dig his tracks. We'll turn that off for right now. It has been quite the week for Xbox news, hasn't it? If you've been following along, a lot has happened, namely the Indiana Jones news about how it's no longer going to be an Xbox exclusive, something that we read about in the FTC documentation, how they were fighting to make that happen, and now that is no longer the case. It will be a timed exclusive for upwards of 3 months, 3 to 4 months. We are going to talk about Concord and how it's a massive failure. I saw people saying that I was going to do damage control for Concord. Do you want to open up with Concord and how well that game is not doing currently? We can if you'd like, or we can go right into the Xbox stuff. This will be chat's choice. It's like multiple choice. Do you want to talk about Concord and how bad this is in terms of a launch? Or do you want to talk about the Xbox news and how Xbox is changed forever, how they're never going to be the same? Xbox, go with it, says Mudo over on Twitch. Concord, let's make fun of Concord. Now, I don't want to make fun of Concord. I will say this. You know, I know people who worked over there. They worked on it for 8 years. What really frustrates me about Concord is the fact that they spent 8 years on that game and nobody once said, hey, maybe this isn't the way to go in terms of direction. The teaser trailer had people hyped thinking it was going to be some sort of space adventure game. And then when they actually launched it, everyone was just like, what the hell is this? They started it in 2008. You know what other game launched? Sorry, they started it 8 years ago. You know what other game launched around that time? Overwatch. The problem is they started development once Overwatch launched, knowing full well that the game wouldn't come out until many, many years later. And now the market is saturated with a bunch of free-to-play games that are freaking awesome. And they're going up against that. Like Overwatch 2 is free. You're going up against that. And if you look at like where Overwatch 2 is sitting, or these other shooters like Marvel Rivals came out of nowhere and it's like pretty solid. It's free. It's like you're coming into a market saying how you're going to do something different. And the games is so bare bones. It's nuts. Like I played it a little bit and I just uninstalled it. I just didn't want to play anymore. I know Travis Northup, who's reviewing it over on IGN. He's like, yeah, this feels really good. Every game I play, it's just, I'm not having a good time with it at all. The finals is good. Like there's all of these other games out there right now that are doing much better than Concord. And we're going to get to the Xbox stuff. People wanted me to open up with Concord. And the reason that I'm upset about it is because the people working on it are so incredibly talented. And sometimes when you have incredibly talented people like that, they need leadership to tell them to rein it in certain ways and maybe steer them towards the right goals. And Concord is just such a bizarre target to aim at. Like who's that game made for? Like, what's the market? What's the market analysis that's saying people want Concord? It's so weird. And to see somebody like Naughty Dogs have the knowledge to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't get into this space, makes a lot more sense. Simon Brady says, can you ask Phil what an Xbox exclusive is? Well, Simon, apparently they don't exist anymore. So I don't really need to ask him. He's made it very clear. Xbox is drastically shifting their strategy over the next several years. Yeah, and I see a lot of people talking about, oh God, I hate this term. I absolutely hate this term. I'm erasing my board if you're wondering what the hell I'm doing. All right, let me just do this quick so that I can cut it out in the VOD so it doesn't look like I'm doing something else. Where's my marker? So we got a super chat from Simon Brady. Simon, $5. Or £5 or whatever. Thank you, Simon. We'll put you on the board. I appreciate it. You know, the one thing that I see about Concord, everyone's like, go woke, go broke. And you see that all the time online. I think if Concord was something different that people actually wanted to play, then maybe people wouldn't be touting that very easy to say term. I don't think that's why it flopped. It's just slow. It's really not fun. Like the people who are digging it, the people are like, oh, I'm playing it and I'm having a great time. It's not good. You shoot somebody in the head with a sniper rifle and they don't die. Like you have characters with like these huge life pools and you have this sniper with an annoyingly slow reload animation. Like there's fundamental problems with how the characters are built. So all of that woke stuff that everybody keeps talking about, I'm like, you're missing the point. The game's not good. Like the game at a fundamental level is not fun. And that's my opinion. Some people are liking it more than that. But I think once you get into like a higher level of play, maybe you can do it as a squad. But like, come on. It's not fun. And if you're curious, like how bad this is, I brought up the Steam charts before the show. And it's dropped to 332 since I brought up the Steam charts. And they hit a peak of 697 games, 697 players 2 days ago. That's when it launched to the public. And here's the thing. 692 was their peak. Well, I've seen a lot of people comparing it to bad games like Gollum. Let's compare it to a game like, you know what it would be a good game to compare it to? Half-Life Alyx. That has a big barrier to entry. You got to buy what? A $700 headset to play that? You have to buy the $700 headset. You know, Concord's available on PC and PlayStation 5. There's not a lot of barriers, just a $40 barrier. Half-Life Alyx, like, granted it's a known franchise, but it literally has more players playing right now than the all-time peak for Concord. Half-Life Alyx, the VR game that requires a $700 headset to play, has more people playing it right now than Concord ever has had playing it. That's nuts. That is a colossal failure. And if you're wondering, like, oh, well, you know, Suicide Squad, which we know was a failure. Remember, that led to a 41% drop in revenue for Warner Brothers Gaming. They lost something like $200 million loss. They lost $200 million on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. How is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? They have about half the amount of players that Concord has playing right now. And that was a $200 million loss. So they have 145. Concord has 332. So just under half what Concord has. You need people within your, you know, group who are willing to say, we shouldn't do this, that, or that. Like you have to have, you can't just have everybody just saying, yes, everything's a great idea, everything's wonderful. You have to have people reining it in, I think. I'm not happy that Concord failed at all, but this is a massive failure. It's not great. Redfall, another failure. 51 people playing right now, 6,124 peak, and that game was, as we know, a big failure. Gollum had a higher peak, according to SteamDB. Lord of the Rings Gollum had a 758 player peak. Senua's Saga, a game that a lot of people are like, oh, like it currently has 132 people playing. Again, like maybe 1/3 of the amount of people that are playing Concord at the moment. It had a peak of nearly 4,000 players when it came out. It's a very short game. Starfield, very divisive. A lot of people say it's like terrible bad. It has 15,878 people playing it right now. So if you just want some context about how bad this is, it's bad. It's probably one of the biggest flops I've ever seen Sony put out. And like, yeah. And since they marketed it, since that first trailer, it has been met with criticism and people asking, who is this for? Who is this for? Like who played this game and said, yeah, you should keep going? The movement is slow. It doesn't feel good. The characters don't feel particularly balanced. They've reined in characters that were like, I don't get Concord. And if I don't get it, I don't think a lot of people are going to get it. I played 20 hours of the game across the beta and this one. It's nuts to me to see how well it's done. I played an hour and a half of the full release, and I got 5 achievements. And the Concord beta, I played like 10 hours. And ironically, so the Concord had their closed alpha or whatever. I can't get into Deadlock. I do want to play Deadlock, actually, everybody. So if anybody wants to send me a Deadlock invite, let me know. I don't have my hours, but it was something like 10 hours on the beta. And like I played the beta of Concord and then I stepped away for a bit and I went back into it and I'm like, wait, this game sucks. Like there's a fundamental problem with it. I've already done my rants about Concord, but I've been very clear that I am not positive about Concord. I don't like it. I think the character designs are not good. Like, at best, they are boring and bland. They look like knockoffs of Guardians of the Galaxy. The nicest thing I can say is that the CGI and how they did the CGI is gorgeous. However, the writing is awful. The writing is the worst writing I have ever seen. And we already know what the first 3 weeks are going to do. And it's abysmal. Like, why in the world are we going to be nice about this one? You know why people are being nice about Concord? Because they see just like how bad this is going to be. They're like, this is bad. I don't even want to make fun of it anymore. Like, and it's not even fun to make fun of. I feel bad for the people who spent 8 years on this. So like, there's the human element of just like, wow, I kind of feel bad for all these devs that spent 8 years on it. And like people who I know and like and respect in the industry, like, yeah, we're all in on Concord. I'm like, you wasted 8 years though. Like, it's brutal, man. 8 years to put that out. Who is it for? What focus testing happened? What person in leadership, Jim Ryan, what person in leadership said, we're going to buy your studio so that you can make this game? The big question I see from the community is like, what the hell did Sony see in Concord that they were like, yeah, let's buy Concord Studio and get this one off the ground out of all the games? That's insane to me. So you want to know my take on Concord? It is a travesty that team spent 8 years to make that game. And when you launch it, there's 2 training modes on this. I uninstalled it. I wish I didn't uninstall it because I could show you. It's like a training mode, another training mode, a time trial, kill confirmed, and team deathmatch. Yeah, I have more, and that's the big joke. Destin is like, Destin has more concurrence than Concord players. Yeah, so I've had a higher concurrent count today than Concord has had, like that on Steam. That's nuts. And the interesting thing is we actually got a peek behind the curtain because of Black Myth Wukong about the percentages on PlayStation versus Steam. Usually the percentage is lower, but regardless, you are getting a peek at how poorly Concord is doing via the Steam numbers. So make no mistake, even if it's 10, or what would it be? So if it was 600 on Steam and it was like, what, 1,000% higher? I'm really bad. I don't know how the percentage would work. If it was 1,000% higher, that would be 6,000 peak concurrence on PlayStation. There's 60 million PlayStations on the market. You're telling me your peak, if it was 1,000 times more, is 6,800? That's also bad. That is still colossally bad. Redfall came out and Phil Spencer was like, yeah, we messed up with Redfall. Redfall was bad. It took 8 years to make Hellblade 2. Let's talk about Hellblade 2 for a second, because there's a really interesting theory about that. Hellblade 2, the studio released their financials and they made something like $23 million in revenue with nothing. They've had no games. They've had no releases. They're in the green and they didn't do anything. They didn't release any games, nothing. That studio is fascinating. And it turns out they are the only studio in that region that can offer motion capture. So the theory is Hellblade 2, sure, it's a game, but you know what it is even more? It's a freaking advertisement for what they can bring to other studios who want to use. Okay, so it'd be 100% increase. Hasib, thank you. So 100% increase from 680 to whatever. Yeah. Titles, we're going to get to the Xbox stuff. If you like Concord, I am so happy for you. You're going to get to play that game and enjoy it for weeks. I'm very happy that you're here and that you're enjoying the game. In all seriousness, like, it's not, I'm glad you like Concord. I don't care if you like Concord, if you're having a good time. A lot of my colleagues like Concord. I liked it for like a week, and that was when I saw all the negativity and everything. I'm having a good time. But then I stepped away and I came back to it after they started patching characters, and I'm like, wait, this game sucks. The sniper isn't good. It's like the sniper shoots, and then the reload, and it's a bolt action gun. And I'm like, I can't get a different type of sniper. I can't like, there's no option here. And you're telling me the vacuum cleaner, how many shots does it take to kill the vacuum cleaner? The game just sucks, man. And the worst part is the writing is so poor. You don't care about those characters at all. I got to read a few super chats. Sorry. I'm mad about Concord. Some of the press are now defending Concord. Think of the devs. I mean, I think that energy was actually there for Hogwarts, Simon. I do think there were people out there who were like, hey, like I don't like some of the comments J.K. Rowling said, but I do care. Like, she didn't make this game. And I did actually see that sentiment for Hogwarts. But thank you, Simon. So I would push back against that narrative. And I think it's a human nature thing. Like, you think about all the people who put in their time into Concord, and they worry about it, worry about them as people. I think that's reasonable, and it's just a compassion thing, but the game still sucks. So like, you can have both of those, right? People want to know my review of Black Myth Wukong, another game. I think they just said they had 10 million in sales. Black Myth Wukong is currently my game of the year contender. My only game of the year contender, I think. I cannot think of anything else that released in 2024. Maybe Delta Force's Alpha. If Delta Force was a full release, that would also be on my list. Black Myth Wukong is my current. I'm going to nominate it for game of the year. We have like a channel where we can nominate game of the years, and I'm going to nominate it. I think it's that good. There was also a game called Foam Stars that did not do that good, I think. Yeah, Foam Stars bombed. That was from Solar. Thank you, Solar. Solar. We'll just call that a 7. Anyway, that's my take on it. Yeah. Yeah, just speaking really frankly, like let's be honest here. There were people that were talking about Hogwarts Legacy and how they had an issue with some of the comments J.K. Rowling said, but they did feel for the development team and that they wanted to support that game because like J.K. Rowling didn't make Hogwarts Legacy, you know, the devs did. And so I think that it's just like a human nature thing. And I'm not going to get into, I don't want to get into the J.K. Rowling comments or whatever, but I did see that sentiment for that game. So Simon, I do appreciate you bringing it up, but yeah, people push back against that narrative also. The big problem I had with Hogwarts Legacy was that there was a targeted campaign against anybody who streamed it. That's not okay. I don't care who you are. Anything that like targets people, don't do that. It's really, really, really bad. And the fact that people were doing that for Hogwarts I thought was the worst thing. Yeah, of course a lot didn't, Brandy. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation, right? In hindsight, Hogwarts Legacy was a massive success. I think it made $1 billion. And Suicide Squad was a $200 million hole in the Warner Brothers stable of games. It is a disaster. Yeah, Concord's $40. Oh, shoot. Oh, Simon, I think I missed what you said, but I wrote it on the board. Sorry, Simon. If you just want to @Destin, I'll read your super chat on chat. Yeah, so long story short, Concord is a disaster. Black Myth Wukong is not. Black Myth Wukong is so freaking good. I think my biggest criticism about Black Myth Wukong, and I think Mitchell gave it an 8 over on IGN, I think that's fair. The only problem with Black Myth Wukong is the performance. There are big performance issues that need to be addressed with that product. Otherwise, I think the combat's great. People are like trying to act like the fact that it's a boss rush is a negative. I'm just like, what? It just is what it is. They never said they were trying to be Dark Souls. And I find it weird. I find it weird that people would criticize the game for not being Dark Souls when it's never said it would be Dark Souls, or like they're criticizing it for being a boss rush. I think that's weird. I have not played Undertale, to answer the question. And the question from Simon was, did Game Pass day and date kill the Xbox exclusive? I don't think so. I think Xbox making bad decisions repeatedly for 10 years was what led to that. Yeah, there were a lot of, especially in like the last 4 or 5 years, I think that caused a lot of problems. Okay, now we're going to move on to Xbox, everyone. Is that an Xbox fridge? No, that's an Xbox. So I was sent. So for work, the companies will often send me for IG. I work at IGN full time. If you're watching, you didn't know that. But I did the unboxing and a lot of testing on the PS5. This is like a launch day PS5. And for Halo, they sent me this one. So these are like owned by Microsoft, I guess, or IGN. They're not technically mine. And the one back there is also like a work machine. Not going to lie, my Series S gets a lot of travel. Series S is slowing releases for Series X. Anyway, let's get to the Xbox news. We have 1,000 people watching. Xbox will never be the same. Here's why. They have created an interesting issue for themselves, and I've been meaning to talk about this since the report came out. But Jason Schreier wrote this article saying, Xbox's exclusive video game strategy leaves everyone confused. And that headline hits the nail on the head so spectacularly that I think that it really gets at the heart of the issue. Nobody really knows what Xbox is doing right now. Real quick, Dark Winters just tipped $20. Thank you, Dark Winters. The problem I have is this feels like another Xbox One generation. What is Xbox making for Xbox players? Everything feels third party, and turns out PlayStation gets the better version. Xbox needs to fix this. Absolutely. And I would actually agree with you a little bit further, Dark Winters. Xbox players didn't get Baldur's Gate 3 on launch date because of some sort of weird hardware issue that Xbox wasn't able to fix in time to get the game releasing on that platform. Now they're missing Black Myth Wukong because of a similar issue. The developers can't meet the standards and everything that Xbox has set up for them, so they're not getting Black Myth Wukong. There's something fundamentally flawed with whatever system they have currently set up when it's harder to make games for Xbox than it is for PlayStation, when PlayStation is more of a locked ecosystem than Xbox is. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a hardware configuration, but I absolutely agree with you, Dark Winters. Thank you for the $20. It's so strange. And we got another $5 hit here from Dwayne. How bad do you think Concord hurt Sony financially? I think it is. I think the studio's done. Just to be really frank. And I don't say that with joy. I think it's really unfortunate. I think it's gonna be devastating for Sony and for that studio. Like, I can stick my head in the sand and pretend, oh, everything's sunshine and rainbows. It's all going to be fine. Like I love the devs. I think they're insanely talented. I think the gunplay at moments works, but the balance is a mess of the game. And the fact of the matter is they showed the game and everybody unanimously said, I don't want that. Zoyer, I'm answering a question that somebody left a $5 tip for. I forgot to write down his name. Who was I answering that for? Anyway, thank you for the $5. I'm just going to put that on the board. Boom. Simon again. Xbox treats us like second-class citizens. Keeley announces one more thing going to PS5. Disgraceful. Sony and Nintendo don't treat their fans like that. I do know that a lot of fans are feeling the same way that you are, Simon. I do know a lot of fans are feeling that way. I mean, it's not like I know the devs. Well, I know one person who works at that studio who used to be at IGN, who's very kind, and I do like them a lot. And so like there's that side of it, right? I won't say who it is, but anyway, and then there's devs there who I interview because it's basically the whole Destiny team went over there. So I do feel bad for the fact that they made this game that's like this is colossally bad. I can't think of another game, can anybody think of a AAA game that came out that was this much of a disaster? I cannot. Like this is monumental. And I'm not being hyperbolic. Saints Row was pretty bad, but I think let's do SteamDB for Saints Row. What was it? Saints Row. It was a reboot, right? There's more people playing the Saints Row game that everybody called a flop. So they had a peak of 4,147, and this was also considered a disaster. So they had a higher peak than Concord also. And there's about 100 fewer people playing that Saints Row game today, 270 than Concord. Okay, well, no, currently. It's bad. Like, I think we all know it's really, really bad. My question is like, what's Sony going to say on their earnings call about Concord? Let's get back to the Xbox news. I got a little distracted about all the super chats. I do appreciate it. And the only thing I don't like about saying this on a live stream to 1,100 people is like, I don't want you to think that I'm like happy or like in joyous uproar, but I'm realistic and I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat how much of a disaster Concord was. It was bad. And I think the reason that people are kind of like, I kind of want to move on from Concord is because it feels like you're beating the dead horse with a hammer at this point. I talked about Concord being dangerously low in terms of player count a month ago or whenever they did those numbers. Now that it's out and it's a disaster, it's really bad. Key No Man's says wokeness is not the problem. Toxic positivity is. I don't really understand. I don't really understand that. I think, well, the main point I was making before was I think they needed somebody in the studio. Oh, here's Paris. Nobody is happy about Concord failing, but people cheerleading the failure is the disappointing thing. That's the differentiation I want to make. Like, I don't think anybody's happy that it's failing, but it is important to talk about, yes, well, not important. That's not the right word, but like not sugarcoating it. This is very bad for that studio. This is bad for Sony. Like, I don't think anybody's like, oh, super happy that Concord flopped that hard. Definitely not. Gary says, do you think Xbox needs a change in leadership? That's a good question. Getting a lot of super chats. Thanks, guys. That's a tough question. No, I don't know. It feels like they've already made that decision. I think Satya Nadella and Amy Hood are taking more of a priority towards, I don't really know how to respond to your tip, Kino Man Sky, but I do appreciate it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What did Paris say? Yeah, nobody's like celebrating the fact that it failed, but it failed spectacularly, and it's definitely bad. Do I think Xbox needs a change in leadership? I think it's already happened. I think Satya Nadella and Amy Hood are definitely calling the shots right now, and Phil Spencer's there, and obviously there's a conversation still happening, but they need their $70 billion back. Make no mistake, this year is an incredibly difficult year for game studios and just gaming in general. Why do I have 1,200 people watching? There's so many people watching. I'm a little intimidated, but happy. Thank you for watching, everybody. Yeah, so Xbox is never going to be the same again. Let me reset. We're going to move on to Xbox for a little bit. Xbox exclusive video game strategy leaves everyone confused. This article from Jason Schreier was released not that long ago, and it talks about Xbox and how they need to figure out their messaging. The biggest problem that Xbox has had for so long is that they simply cannot get it together when it comes to talking about their strategy. They did a podcast back in February where they talked about how they're bringing 4 games to other platforms. Why did they have that emergency podcast? Because there were rumors going around that Indiana Jones wasn't going to be exclusive. So what did they do? They had an emergency show where the news was that Indiana Jones and Starfield were going to go to PlayStation. So they had this emergency show. We have got to get the Xbox podcast off the ground, get everybody together. And they're like, no, those games are not Starfield or Indiana Jones. 6 months later, oh yeah, just kidding. It was Indiana Jones. And they wonder why people don't trust what they say. And I did see some comments that, like, you know what's going on in the industry. Like, you're not shocked by this. There's a difference between calling out a CEO for, at best, misdirecting their audience, at worst, lying to them, and not knowing what is going on. I understand what's going on in the market. I think it makes sense to release games multi-platform, but to sit here and act like the Phil Spencer emergency show in February was all hunky-dory, I think is disingenuous. After that article, go to Paul Tassie's article with Forbes, title something like Xbox Pick a Lane. Maxwell, absolutely. If that's Paul's headline, he's absolutely right. What are you doing? I think they should just go full slate at this point. Like, why pretend? Why pretend? Just go full slate. Who cares? They need to make their money back. Make your money back. Phil said, no, now I wonder why they never had Blade with the Xbox logos on their announcement. Yep. That, and we know Starfield and such were already being made for PS5. Yeah, Starfield already had work done. I'm just going to put names from now on. Work done on the PlayStation 5. You're telling me in 6 months they're just like, hit file, save as PS5 on Indiana Jones? No, man. No way. Chris says Microsoft is a software company first and a hardware company second. Why is it a shock that they've decided to lean in their strengths to maximize profits? It's not a shock. I do not think it's a shock to many people that they have decided to release multi-platform. I think the main issue is the fact that they had that February stream and they said Indiana Jones and Starfield aren't coming multi-platform. Starfield's the next one, by the way, chat. There is no world where they go back on their word, release Indiana Jones, and now they're not going to do Starfield. Of course they're going to do Starfield. There's no world where that doesn't happen, in my opinion. But I don't think it's problematic. I think it's the issue where they intentionally seem to mislead people. And that's my opinion. That was very misleading to do what they did in February, only to come out and release Indiana Jones. But now let's look forward. What do I think they need to do? They need to come out of the gate, figure out what they're doing, and get some clear messaging with their audience. Where's the Game Pass advertising for Call of Duty? If you're pushing Game Pass so hard, all I ever really see are social media posts. Like when I go to Costco, I see the Xbox and I see the PlayStation today. I don't see the value proposition for Game Pass. Meanwhile, China is selling out of PlayStation 5s because Black Myth Wukong is so freaking popular in this new area. PS5 reportedly selling out in China following Black Myth Wukong launch. Meanwhile, they're trying to figure out how to get Black Myth Wukong on an Xbox. Microsoft officially responds to Black Myth Wukong releasing on Xbox. So apparently they've had an official statement about the situation. A recent Forbes article dives into this question and states that Black Myth Wukong is suffering from the same fate as Baldur's Gate 3, which was development issues related to Microsoft's low-end console, the Xbox Series S. Game Science actually addressed this back in June when fans noticed the Xbox logo was removed from Black Myth Wukong's marketing material. The developer said back then it was currently optimizing for the Series X and S version to meet our quality standards and that it will announce the release date as soon as it meets quality standards. Microsoft responded to the Xbox release of Black Myth Wukong with a statement. We're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox Series X and S and are working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that. Now, it's been made very clear since that statement was made that no, there's no like official deal being made with PlayStation to make sure that Black Myth Wukong officially comes to PlayStation or anything like that. Let's just think about it logically. We hypothesize that there's about 30 million Xbox Series X and S consoles in the world. PlayStation just announced they have 61, probably 62 million. Which one are you going to prioritize right now? Probably the one with 62 million in hardware sales versus 30 million. And that's my problem with the mixed messaging that Jason Schreier alludes to in this piece. The Duck of Death says Xbox is not announcing a defined third-party strategy because they want to pick and choose the games that go over and win. There's no magic port button. You are correct. I do think over the years we're going to see more and more going across the board, though. Thank you, Doug. Going across the PlayStation because they've made it very clear they do not like console exclusives. So Xbox, they could really spin this. They could spin this and say, we want to be an industry leader. We're getting rid of the idea exclusives. We want more people to play games, and we think that's good for the industry. So yeah, they could absolutely spin this into a positive thing and put it to Sony a little bit. But the problem, like there's three people in the market right now. It's Sony, it's Xbox, and it's Nintendo. Sony does not have a lot of incentive to start releasing their games on Xbox. And my theory, I feel like this is the third or fourth stream where I've said it. My theory is that the next Xbox is basically going to be a PC with a prettier interface where users who are more comfortable with the console market are going to be able to boot it up, and they're going to be able to just go ahead and start playing their games, including the PlayStation games that have been ported to PC. So I think they're going to Trojan horse their way into the PlayStation market, so to speak, by releasing a PC. So yeah. And Mike asked, do you think it would soften the blow if all Xbox games set a minimum 12-month waiting period before releasing on PS5? Is 1 year enough? I think it would have been better for a year. It's 3 months. Indiana Jones didn't even get a chance to be a megaton success for Xbox because they announced it for PlayStation before it even came out. Why in the world, like just strategy-wise from a business perspective, why in the world would you announce your release date and then have Jeff Keighley announce that it's coming to PS5 in the spring, which is like 3 months later? What? Spring is like 3 months. Correct me. It's not even a year is the point. If it would have been coming to PS5 in 2026, that makes a little bit more sense, but it's spring. So yes, Mike, I do think if it was a year, it would have softened the blow. But if you're a PlayStation owner and you just found out that Indiana Jones is 3 to 6 months. Okay, it's 5 to 6 months after Xbox. Why in the world would you buy an Xbox? You won't. You'll just wait for it to come to the PlayStation. You'll spend your $70 on it. So the strategy is weird. If they would have announced this in January or in March, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're in a winning situation with Indiana Jones, but if I'm a PlayStation 5 owner and I see Indiana Jones is coming to PS5 in spring, like even my brain, I got it wrong. Chat called me out. It's like 5-6 months. I'm like, oh, I got to wait till like March. That's fine. I'll wait. When does spring start? When does spring start? It starts March 20th. And Xbox has made it very clear. So it comes out in December. It's 3 months. December, January, February, March. So it's like 3 months and change. Why is chat saying it's 5 or 6 months? Are you just guessing? Like here, spring is March 20th, 2025. And it ends in June. Why are you saying 5-6 months? It comes out in December, January, February, March. It's 3 months and what? 10 days, 11 days. It just said spring. It comes out in spring, not on the first day of spring. Why would they wait? The Band-Aid's already been ripped off. 3 to 6 months is more sense. Some people, guys, I think it's coming in like end of March, early April. I think at best it's 4 months. They don't want it to come out in May because they probably have releases slated for May. I think y'all are wrong. I think it's 3 or 4 months. As a PS5 owner, I'm happy Microsoft didn't try to trick me into thinking it's exclusive. That would not breed trust. Kiri, I get that. Yeah, okay. So from a PlayStation perspective, he's like, oh, well, I'm glad I wasn't tricked and thinking it's an exclusive. However, they've been saying it's going to be an Xbox exclusive for like 2 years. So I would actually argue against that and say that they have been a little bit misleading. Aaron, will mobile app stores, is the super chat distracting, or do you guys like that I read the super chats? Phil said 11 out of 10 games makes no difference equals clueless. Yeah, look at Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong is an 8 with performance issues, and PlayStation 5s are selling out at an astronomical rate in China. 11 out of 10 games do make a difference. He's wrong. Period. A good game with an interesting premise. Black Myth Wukong is cool because it revisits a long told story from a mythological perspective. That, who does it speak to? It speaks to the American audience because we're idiots and we don't know the story of Monkey King. I'm curious about the lore of Monkey King. And also the combat looks good. The boss designs are like compelling. They look sort of interesting. Like it sort of has like this little bit of a creepy vibe as somebody who doesn't really know anything about all these characters. Like they're a little weird, but that's kind of cool. And Americans are kind of like that sort of thing. But also like the main character, he looks kind of like a badass and he's going up against the powers that be so that he can do his own thing. And it's compelling and it looks fun. There's just something about it that really scratches like all the itches that you would want to have. Like God of War does the same thing, how it explores Norse mythology, but I would argue God of War does something better where it explores the nuance of Kratos as a character and how he's sort of evolved into a father figure. I don't agree with Chaffee's take on it. I think it's totally fine that Kratos grew as a character. And it's really, really cool to see this. And in China, imagine somebody came out and they made a game about just something in American lore that was getting a lot of positive buzz and people were super interested in it and the gameplay looked badass. Like I almost think it's like patriotic. I don't know how to phrase it another way. And people in China are probably like, this is awesome. We have our first AAA game that we can really celebrate. I want to support this. And like, I'm curious about this. And they're just going and getting a PS5. So yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree. 11 out of 10 games do make a difference. I'm going to put Aaron on the board. Aaron, will mobile app stores VR beat top gaming players like Big Three PC in 5 years? I know Microsoft and Sony are headed there. God bless you and the fam. Thank you, Aaron. I think it will be a bigger player than people think, but it's been clear that there's an issue with sell-through. I think I need to get back on topic because people are like, we want to read the Schreier article. Chris says, do you think they'll outsource the next Xbox hardware, or do you think they'll do their own Surface-style tablet PC on par with the Ally ROG? I think it'll be like a more powerful Steam Deck with a more open OS. Yeah. A lot of people have asked my opinion on like where I think they're going in terms of hardware. Let's get back to the topic at hand. We haven't even started the article yet. Hi, everyone. Today we're trying to figure out just what the heck Xbox is doing. But first, this week's top gaming news. Popular Chinese game Black Myth Wukong is making history. 10 million copies sold. It's insane. It's insane how well it did. It is the number 2 game on Steam, beat out only by PUBG. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Vice presidential candidate Tim Walz was really into Dreamcast. Okay. Not so exclusives. Those are the top stories on the site. I think that's auto-generated. Xbox not so exclusive. Microsoft Corp's Xbox and Sony Group's PlayStation have long been the Pepsi and Coke of video games. Bitter rivals, each with their own factions of loyal fans. Nintendo, once a third contender, is now in its own world. Less Dr. Pepper and more, say, Starbucks. That's a good way to put it. Both video game giants built stables of internal game developers to develop franchises solely for their own console. These exclusives were the main reason to pick up one over the other. To play Halo and Gears of War, you needed to buy an Xbox. For Uncharted and The Last of Us, you had to have a PlayStation. But a series of poor business decisions in 2013 gave the PlayStation 4 a huge lead over the Xbox One, and Microsoft's gaming group has been playing catch-up ever since. Microsoft no longer reports hardware sales, but analysts estimate that the latest PlayStation is now outselling Xbox upwards of 5-1. Now that source is Paul Tassi. Paul forgot he was the source. 5-1 was what they were looking at in terms of console sales back during the May quarter when they saw a massive decline in sales. Now, total sell-through, they believe it's, by my estimates, because they slipped up a while back and they released the math, and then you can kind of do like, okay, well, you had a 40% year over year decrease, so that's probably like a 2 million. Anyway, my best guess estimate, and I think an analyst also guesses, I think they're at about 30 million right now. I think Daniel Ahmad said they're selling, or no, it was Matt Piscatella. Matt Piscatella estimates that Xbox is at about 30 million, pacing with where the 360 was at this time period, and pacing with pacing below where the Xbox One was in this time period. The issue with that is the Xbox Series X and S doesn't have exclusives. They have no reasons to buy the console. Hey, want to play Black Myth Wukong? Well, you can't do that if you buy the Xbox. Hey, you want to play Baldur's Gate 3 several months after release? Like, get the Xbox. Xbox keeps stepping on rakes. That's how Ryan McCaffrey puts it, right? And I love Xbox, but they're really setting themselves up here to have a very hard time. Nerds and Other Legends says, if there is an erosion of the Xbox console brand, do you think that sets up Bond and her team for failure? Gen 10 could be an Xbox flop, but if there isn't a negative impact on MAU, would Microsoft even care? I have said this. If the next Xbox is a flop, I think they get out of the hardware business and they just go towards whatever 2030 looks like. And I've talked about that a lot. You can't have continual declines in hardware sale on the level that Xbox is seeing, which I believe they will see by the end of the console cycle, and stay in the business. However, there is an inverse to that question. I do wonder if they manage to create a new Xbox and they see astronomical growth because they make it more open. Their whole thing is they don't like console exclusives. And I think we're seeing the early times of them tearing down those walls, so to speak. They're going to play good guy. They're going to get rid of console exclusives and bring their games to other people. However, there is no reason to buy an Xbox right now, not the console. And that's problematic for Microsoft. However, the PR spin, the positive PR spin from Microsoft has been really interesting. 500 million monthly active users, 30 million of them, or at least 1 million of them are from Sea of Thieves. It's crazy. Mighty Guybrush is mad at me saying I'm a hypocrite. I don't know why I'm a hypocrite. Because I'm talking about math? What are you talking about? Anytime somebody criticizes me because I use mathematics to look, what exclusives does Sony have? Okay, let's look at that. Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong. There's 2. Helldivers 2. If you're not a PC gamer and you're a console purist, there's reasons to buy a PlayStation 5. Xbox is having trouble even getting that going. They're third party. You're right. They're third party. Console players don't care. They have their PS5 and they're still getting games to play on it regularly. I'll give Xbox this one, though. They had Pal World at the beginning of the year. So you can't sit there and tout Pal World as this major victory for Xbox and not recognize that the third party victories for PlayStation also matter. They do. They do. Does PlayStation need first-party stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But they have managed to supplement a year where they had nothing and one major flop in the form of Concord with third-party titles that were exclusive to their console. It's very good for them. It's very bad. It's very unfortunate for Xbox players. Kyle says to me, Microsoft went down this less of Xbox approach after Minecraft went multi-plat. They could have been selfish and up their hardware sales. Yeah, maybe. Everybody increased the price of hardware. So yeah, that was unfortunate. I'm going to get to the Avowed stuff. A lot of @Destins here. I'm going to get back to the story because if I just read chat all day, it's not compelling in terms of vision. Xbox console/PC is the only thing that can keep me in the Xbox ecosystem at this point. Most games I play are not on Game Pass, and I miss out on PlayStation games. That's exactly... BK Crypto is exactly right. You guys are super chatting so fast. I got to figure out an app to... First of all, thank you. Like, wow. The amount of support. But Production Destiny is also like, I got to read all these chats and keep the show going. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And all of your points have been on topic. I have to figure out production wise how to trigger super chats on my overlay. See, now I want to do it really quick. Is there a way that I can? All right. Anyway, for today, I'm going to figure this out for the next stream, but I need to figure this out. Xbox console PC is the only thing that keep me in the ecosystem. And I think that's a problem, right? Because when you see other people getting all the third-party releases and eating good, so to speak, and you're like, well, I got Game Pass, but it sure would be nice to have some of those third-party games over here too, and you're just not getting them, you are more likely to go to the other platform. Dark Winters with another $20. I don't think being open is enough in this industry. Xbox needs to look around. We already have a Steam Deck and an ROG Ally. We don't need another one unless it replaces the Series S. My argument is Xbox could at least compete with the sales of the ROG Ally if it's like a good enough handheld. And I think that's their first step, Dark Winters. I think their first step is making a really compelling piece of hardware that is a handheld, that's more open and easier to play Windows games on, because the Steam Deck is held back because a lot of those games have anti-cheats. So you can't play like, say, Destiny 2. I had to do a dual boot to get Destiny 2 running. And there's other examples right like that. I think if Microsoft can solve that problem for the consumer, I think it would be a big win. My2 said, there's not first party plus. They are Microsoft PC thanks to Windows. Yep, agree. And let's continue on with Jason Schreier. So we ended off 5-1. That was back in May. To make up this hardware deficit, Xbox has doubled down on Game Pass. Here we go. A little larger here. A subscription service that allows players to access an ever-growing catalog of games for a low monthly fee. Under Microsoft Gaming Executive Officer Phil Spencer, the label also went on a spending spree, buying game studios and publishers such as Bethesda for $7.5 billion and Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. But since closing the Activision deal last fall, Xbox has made a series of moves that have left fans and analysts baffled about its overall strategy. It has laid off thousands of staff, shuttered studios, and been unable to articulate a consistent message about how it plans to release games. Xbox fans assumed those big acquisitions would lead to more exclusive games that help justify their console purchase, but the opposite has happened. I don't even think it's about the console purchase angle. It's just like, where are the Xbox games? Capcom is another one. Like, we don't even get the Marvel collection? What? Because it's some empty framework issue? You tell me you can't call up Capcom and be like, hey, let's solve this so you can get that game on our platform too. Oh, we'll get to it in 6 months. Black Myth Wukong devs, hey, can we solve these issues? Okay, well, we'll release on your platform in 6 months. Baldur's Gate 3, biggest game of 2023, game of the year. Hey, we really want Black Myth Wukong. Oh, well, it's too late. See you in 6 months. It's brutal, man. Like, there's too many problems happening all at the same time for Xbox. It's bad. And a lot of people said, like, it's the Capcom MT framework thing. They got their last collection on Xbox. Like, I don't know what happened, but it's very clear that a lot of developers are making the choice to skip the Xbox platform. And that means, unfortunately, that the consumer gets less value. I don't like PlayStation games. I don't want to play with two young boys in tight pants swinging around. Are you making fun of Spider-Man? Peter Parker is an adult in the Spider-Man game. You will not besmirch Spider-Man in my chat, My2. Thank you for the tip, though. Earlier this year, Microsoft began putting some of its former exclusives on PlayStation, starting with smaller, older titles such as Hi-Fi Rush. This week, the company announced that another big new title will follow that same route. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, coming in December to Xbox on PC, will arrive on PlayStation in spring of 2025. And as we've discussed, spring starts in March. So 3 months and 11 days is about the window where it could release, up to 6 months at the latest. We don't know when they're going to release, but Phil Spencer's made it clear, hey, don't worry, more stuff is coming to other platforms too. Get ready, everybody. How many Xbox fans in chat hype to know that they're not going to have any exclusives? Like, if you're on the X, like for me, I personally don't care. You can see the PlayStation 5. It's right there. I got the Xbox right there. Like, okay, I'll play on Game Pass that I already have 3 years worth for like nothing. I'm going to play Indiana Jones there. Great. Xbox says they're super happy about their monthly active users, right? So yeah. And then anything that's exclusive on the PlayStation, I just boot up the PlayStation and play it there. And everything else comes to PC. So like, I'm great. I don't care. But like, I'm worried about this guy not existing in 2030. Because what does it mean when it's just this guy and Nintendo? I do worry about what the industry is going to look like. All right, we got a bunch of super chats here. Are we headed to a place where only PC is left. If all games are going to be everywhere, then PC seems like the only place to play because of performance and graphics. It started with PC, and it seems that it will end with PC. We could be going towards a reset. That's not a bad thought, TJ Thomas. Interesting. And the thing is, I see an opportunity there for Xbox. They own Windows. They own hardware. If they can figure out a UI and interface that they can still monetize appropriately, that could be very compelling. Gamer says, will you call out PlayStation for counting PSVR, Portal controllers, and console less than 30 mil? PS have logged in for the first update, shipped and sold different. I don't know what you're referring to. In terms of hardware, looking at the earnings reports, I looked into that. I don't see any indication that they are including PSVR and Portal controllers as console sales. So I don't think that's a correct assumption, Gamers Paradise. And I don't know where that came from, and I don't know where you guys are getting it. I've looked at the earning reports. The earning reports have a very specific line for VR and a very specific line for PlayStation 5, and I did my calculations based specifically off the PlayStation 5 sales. Anyway, two things with Hellblade 2. Wasn't that people wanted? I think Team Xbox thinks Game Pass third-party deals are equal to exclusives, but they aren't, in my opinion. Game Pass third-party deals do move the needle. What was that game last year? It was like Dark Souls, but it was like Pinocchio. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a sort of a Dark Souls type game that did very well for Xbox. Curie says, consider that the consumer Microsoft wants to attract isn't necessarily the Xbox owner. All gamers can be their customers. Exactly. And Sea of Thieves, Windows Central is reporting, sold 1 million copies. Indeed, trusted sources have indicated to me that Sea of Thieves has crossed 1 million sales on PlayStation since it launched over there, and it's most likely higher since the information came to me. The game is currently selling for $40, so even when you disregard in-app purchases from Sea of Thieves Emporium, that's at least $40 million additional revenue. Granted, they got to split it a little bit with Sony, but that is massive. And also, this same report says that Hi-Fi Rush sold really well on Xbox. So yeah, they probably saw this and they're like, well, okay, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. What makes a console special if every game is on every platform? Exactly. I mean, that's exactly the question. My2 says, for me, it's the ABK, Bethesda, and Game Pass. I like Microsoft Gaming. Has always ported games home to Microsoft PC. I like that I can play everything on PC. Like PC, I do think is going to be where it's at for a while. Xbox needs to make a console that can be upgraded like a PC. Yeah, Mad, I do think that they could do something like that for the next console generation, but they need to get their messaging clear. Ditching console exclusives is good news for players who can only afford to stick to one piece of hardware, and Microsoft was able to squeeze the Activision deal past regulatory scrutiny, in part because it promised to continue releasing Call of Duty on PlayStation. But Xbox's release strategy has been so confusing, it requires a massive spreadsheet and a full-time job to keep track of it all. Yeah, and I do agree with that. It is a little confusing. Like, okay, so like, what's coming where, what do I need to subscribe to on Lies of P was the game I was talking about before. What do I need to subscribe to where are these games coming, etc. I do think it's a little bit confusing. Even within a single label, the company's choice are inconsistent. Take Bethesda, which Microsoft acquired in 2020. 3 games from the publisher have inexplicably different rollout plans. Last year's Starfield was released only on Xbox and PC, with no PlayStation version in sight. Indiana Jones will be a timed exclusive coming to PlayStation 3 to 6 months after its initial release. But the upcoming Doom the Dark Ages, scheduled for 2025, will release simultaneously on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. When that deal happened, Phil Spencer said this is about getting exclusives games in places where Game Pass exists. That did not transpire. Did not transpire at all, which is weird. Obsidian, the well-regarded game maker that was purchased by Microsoft in 2019, recently put out PlayStation versions of 2 games, Pentiment and Grounded. Yes, its next game, Avowed, is scheduled to come out in February 2025 on just PC and Xbox with no announced PlayStation release. I think Avowed comes to PlayStation. Daniel says, did you ever give a review of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? That and Wukong are my Game of the Year contenders. Final Fantasy VII could be a Game of the Year contender. I haven't played it, but I've heard good things. Mr. Too Opinionated says, if Game Pass deals count, then Flintlock and Path of the Goddess weren't that long ago, and COD is coming. Flintlock did not do well at all. I haven't even heard of Path of the Goddess. COD will be a big win for them, but they're not marketing it very well that it's coming to Game Pass. And, you know, they got that scrappy little marketing team over in the UK. Still can't believe Xbox. If you don't know the story behind that, Xbox PR in the UK came out and basically referred to themselves as scrappy and not having a lot of money to market over there, which is insane. You can't market to the UK. Anyway. These rollouts make little sense. Perhaps the company is still trying to straddle the line between reaching as many players as possible and burning fans who bought Xbox hardware under the belief that they would not be able to get those games elsewhere. But this sporadic case-by-case strategy benefits nobody and baffles everyone. I'm going to do a poll in chat. We have a lot of Xbox fans and it's sort of a mixed audience. So we're going to do a poll really quick. Should Xbox release more games on PlayStation? Yes or no? I would emphatically vote yes in this. If you're an Xbox fan, if you're not an Xbox fan, I think everybody has accepted the reality. They're going to do it whether you want them to or not. And I think they're going to continue to do so. Phil Spencer said as much. I think Starfield's next. I think Starfield's a year. And then whatever else after that. It's not hard to discern why Xbox is chasing PlayStation players. Former Xbox exclusives, Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, have seen big audiences on their rival platform. And this year has been all about cutting costs and generating more profit for Xbox, which has faced increased scrutiny from Microsoft since the Activision purchase, Bloomberg has reported. That's big. The fact that they're seeing like huge revenue like that is nuts. My2 says PlayStation Land isn't receiving that COD money. Remember what Jim Ryan said? What is he up to now? Yeah, Jim Ryan's gone. Street says, sorry, but counter to PC only future. I know many who don't want PC and want to tinker. Also, I don't see this future happening until it's Nintendo doing PC and Sony doing day and date for a big title. I don't think Sony will do day and date. I do think Sony will lower the PC release window. And I think the PC thing's going to happen, but people think PC and they think traditional PC. Microsoft is going to design the UI in a way that is just easy to, like, it's just going to be the Xbox UI with the PC option underneath. Like, I think people like purposefully almost overcomplicate what they're envisioning in their head. I'm like, it's going to play just like any console you've ever played before, but just like with the Steam Deck, if you know what you're doing, you're going to be able to put Windows on it. Or access Windows, potentially. I do think they just have Steam integrated in a way where you can just boot your PC stuff right off of it. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue on. Spencer admitted as much this week when asked about the decision. Oh, wait. Sorry, everybody. I got super chats. I don't want to miss these. Sorry, but the counter of the PC only... Oh, I read those. Okay. Sorry, everybody. If I'm missing super chats, I am getting a lot of super chats today, and I'm doing my best to read all of them. I will look through them at the end of the show or after this segment and just make sure I didn't miss any. Spencer admitted as much this week when asked about the decision to put Indiana Jones on PlayStation. We run a business, he said. It's definitely true inside of Microsoft. The bar is high for us in terms of the delivery that we have to give back to the company because we get a level of support from the company that's just amazing in what we're available to go do. He basically said They need to make money. More games. Mark my words. More games are coming to PlayStation 5. They're going to put games everywhere they possibly can. They'll put it on a toaster if they can. If the toaster has 100 million potential sell through, they're going to sell it. And I think that's fine, but I think a lot of longtime fans need to buckle up, because this idea of Xbox having exclusives and such, it's going to be very different for the next several years. Imagine on the next PS showcase, they show Starfield, Hellblade 2, and Forza. That would be the nail in the coffin. Everything is going. Indiana Jones is I wouldn't say nail in the coffin, but I would say I think it's already been made very clear. Phil Spencer said, "We run a business. Get used to change." Do you want to watch that clip? I actually got that clip queued up here. I did the clip for IGN and I put it here on my browser somewhere. Let me find it, because I queued it up so that we could watch and listen to the quote in real time. But I can't find it this second. Sorry, everybody. Here it is. All right, so here's the little clip out I did.
Saw the news about PlayStation as well, which is really cool. I'm really interested in that. So I want to know how this connects back to Xbox's perspective on how and when this approach happens to other titles.
I mean, I'll start just saying...
Okay, he waffles about Indiana Jones and how great Indiana Jones is here. I'm going to let it play. But right after that, he actually answers the question.
Machine Games is doing such a nice job with that game. I thought it showed really well. And that's the most important thing, is quality of the games, teams that are getting support that can go build the game. And it was just nice. The long gameplay segment that they had, I thought was fantastic. Going to the PlayStation announcement, obviously last spring, we launched 4 games, 2 of them on the Switch, 4 of them on PlayStation, and we said we're going to learn. We said we'd watch. I think at Showcase, I might have said, from our learning, we're going to do more. What I see when I look is our franchises are getting stronger.
From our learning, we're going to do more. 1 million copies of Sea of Thieves at $40. From our learnings. And I tweeted about that. Well, I guess they learned that their games sell like crazy on PlayStation. Which makes sense. Like, yeah. And he already knew that Indiana Jones was going to PlayStation, by the way. Mad Gaming says Xbox needs exclusive content for games and place the games themselves being exclusive. Give people a reason to be on Xbox, but still do multi-plat. If Xbox is the one making amazing Xbox games that come to PlayStation 6 months after, I think that could be a winning strategy. But we don't know yet. I think Hellblade 2 was good, but not an 11 out of 10. Maybe an 11 out of 10 in the graphics department, but in the gameplay department, I do not think that was the case. That's my opinion. And I'm sure it sold well for them. I think that's more of a marketing tool for them. My2 says, Microsoft Xbox is here to take over, here, there, and everywhere. All part of the master plan. Dark Winter says PlayStation will have Xbox's games, PlayStation games, and third-party games. Nintendo will have their games, Xbox games, and third-party. Xbox has their games and third-party. That's why they're failing. You get more elsewhere. Yeah. Dark Winters, yeah, that's the issue. It's like, why would I buy a Switch? Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon. Why would I buy a PlayStation? Well, to start, it would be for Gran Turismo 7. I don't know what else they have. Last of Us. God of War. Oh, so God of War would have been a system seller for me. Gran Turismo 7 would have been a system seller for me. Right? And on the Xbox side, they have replies to that. But the issue is, when you're announcing that the reasons to buy an Xbox are shortly after, like 6 months, at the most generous guess is 6 months after, there's not a lot of incentive you have to get that game. And we don't think that Indiana Jones is going to be an 11 out of 10. Previews are very positive, but I don't think it's going to be an 11 out of 10. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm very excited about Indiana Jones. Make no mistake. I'm very hyped about that game. But if I know I just got to wait 3 to 6 months for it on PlayStation, the console hardware, it's going to be in a tough place. And I could talk a little bit about that. Like, why would Microsoft do that strategy-wise? I know fans are a little upset, especially console fans, but like, why would they do that? It's because console has not grown for a decade. It's not grown since the PlayStation 2. The first console since the PlayStation 2 launched is about to outsell the PlayStation 2, and it's the Switch. And the Switch is like a stratospheric success. So no console has come along and managed to hit the market like that. I did play WoW last night, and if anybody has an invite for that Deadlock game or whatever, send me one because I need it. All right, let's hear what they say.
Look, as our franchises are getting stronger, our Xbox console players are as high this year as they've ever been.
So that's really interesting. There are Xbox console players that are as high as they've ever been. You have to remember that includes the Xbox One brand of consoles, and it includes the Series X and S. So I find it very telling that they're saying, hey, we have more consoles than we've ever had before, right? That means they're counting the 65 million and 30 million. So they have like 90 million console players available to them. That's really interesting to me, especially because I'm not sure what, like, did Forza Horizon 5 come out on last gen? I know Forza Motorsport didn't, but Halo did, and Game Pass did. So they're happy. They seem happy with their console numbers, which was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought when he said Xbox console, I missed the Xbox part. And he said, our console players are higher than they've ever been. And I'm wondering if that includes PlayStation players. They sold 1 million copies of Sea of Thieves on PlayStation. Their MAU is 500 million monthly active users. PlayStation is like 134 million. And I'm just guesstimating. I don't know what the PlayStation number is. So in terms of users, Microsoft is trouncing PlayStation at nearly 5-1. But in terms of hardware, PlayStation, at least in May, was outselling 5-1. It's actually a little over 2-1 for PlayStation right now. But 500 million players, that's people buying microtransactions. And like, I want to know the split on that number. At most, you have 90 million players on console. Like, that's how many Xbox Ones exist, and that's how many Series X and S exist. How many of those are on the Amazon Fire TV stick, right? How many of those people are on PlayStation? How many of those people are on mobile? What's the MAU on World of Warcraft? What's the MAU on Diablo and all of these franchises that are available multi-plat? Because that includes cloud, that includes Steam, that includes mobile. So Xbox, in terms of their strategy, and when you look at their very successful console numbers, it's 1/5 of the pie. So you have 400 million people playing on other devices. MAU means monthly active users, and it is a very important metric for these companies to look good because they want to know how many people are playing your things. Let's continue on.
Amazing.
So I look at it and I say, okay, our player numbers are going up for the console platform. Our franchises are as strong as they've ever been. And we run a business. Like, it's definitely true inside.
That was a very telling statement. You've never heard Phil Spencer say something like, you know, we run a business, we need to make money. And he basically says that here.
A business. Like, it's definitely true inside of Microsoft. The bar is high for us in terms of the delivery that we have to give back to the company, because we get a level of support from the company that's just amazing. And
the company is amazing. We get a high level of support. I just read that in the Jason article. Oh, they need their $70 billion back. That's what's going on there. I have to address a comment in chat. Mr. Genesis said, people think their PS5 actually does 4K 120 FPS. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Xbox on the side of the box also says 8K. PlayStation said 8K on the box. Anybody who knows tech, we just looked at that and we were like, yeah, okay. Okay. And Maitu says, just think how much Activision generates from microtransactions alone. Exactly. So like, I think they stay in the console business through 2030. However, if the next console is a flop, they get out. I don't think it will be. I think they might cook with the next one if what I'm thinking they're going to make is it. But if it's a flop, I think they get out because they have, well, man, I don't know. It's such an interesting question because they're developing technology for cloud, which means they don't really have to ditch the 500 million or the 65 million MAUs on the OG Xboxes. And whenever they end up selling, let's say they sold 65 million again on the Series X and S, right? So they wouldn't want to get rid of the 120 million monthly active users, 130 million. Anyway, Dr. Des says, next Xbox will need exclusives along with new features. Connect, PSVR 2, Sony Live Service companies can reverse course. Satya wants his 80 billion now. I'm telling you, the next Xbox is going to be a PC. Thank you, Duck. I am just telling you, it's going to be a PC. That's the only thing that makes sense for them going forward. If it's a lock ecosystem box, like I think they see a drastic reduction in hardware sales, even further than what I'm guessing the Xbox Series X and S are going to sell. And I don't particularly care how well the consoles sell or not. It's definitely interesting from a news perspective, but it does paint a different future for Xbox if the hardware continues to decline with the numbers like we've been seeing. Let's continue on here.
What we're able to go do. So I look at this, how can we make our games as strong as possible? Our platform continues to grow, both on console, on PC, and on cloud. And I think it's just going to be a strategy that works for us. And the last thing I'll probably say is I think as an industry right now, there's a lot of pressure on the industry. It's been growing for a long time, and now people are looking for ways to grow. And I think that us as fans, as players of games, we just have to anticipate there's going to be more change.
There's going to be more stuff coming. As players, we need to anticipate there's going to be more change. She's saying it clear as day, y'all. More Xbox games are going. Period. If he would have said this on the February show, I would have had no issues. I'd have been like, all right, there it is. I take issue with how the February thing went down and then his change in stance with these statements. That's the only thing I take issue with. Don't, what's the saying? Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. I think my grandfather was very crass. He would say stuff like that, right? And it's like, that's sort of what it feels like was happening with that February thing. Mad says, do you think Xbox is going to try and release the next console before PlayStation? I think they do the handheld first, Mad. And then I think they do the most powerful console ever after that.
And how some of the traditional ways that games were built and distributed, that's going to change. That's going to change for all of us. But the end result has to be better games that more people can play. If we're not focused on that, I think we're focused on the wrong things.
Better games that more people can play. What is going on with the hardware then that fewer people are able to play Baldur's Gate and fewer people are able to play Black Myth and fewer people are able to play these games that want to release on your hardware but can't? So like, I hope he's focused on that. And Phil Aroni said, don't shoot the messenger. I absolutely agree with you. Like Phil Spencer is clearly the one that has to do this. He's also the CEO of a company. So just like when I gave Sarah Bond a hard time, Phil also deserves the criticism because that's his job. His job is to get paid $20 million a year or whatever he makes in stock and everything. Like that's why CEOs make so much money, because they're the ones that are met with every word being poured over and everything. So I don't hate Phil Spencer or anything like that. Like, I think that's crazy. Phil's actually very nice and kind. I've met him a few times now. He's always like very upfront. He's like, ask me any hard question and I'm going to answer you as honestly as I can. And I do really appreciate that about him. And I think that more than anything is why I don't like the February show. I think it was unnecessary. I think he could have handled it better. I think the messaging could have been clearer. Never should they have said it's not Starfield or Indiana Jones. That shouldn't have been in the show, period. If it wasn't, they would have been much better off. My dude says, Destin, it's all about users and games. How much does it cost to create a console? What is the profit margin? I asked that last week or the week before. I'm like, yeah, what's the ROI on prototyping new hardware and coming to a consensus on that? Kyle says, let's be honest, the Switch is only a success because it's technically a mobile platform and stats show that the mobile gaming is popular among youth. That is accurate, sort of. they've had a really difficult time in the mobile gaming market getting modern games to find an audience. Assassin's Creed, Resident Evil, there were some others listed, and they're just like not selling on those platforms. But Bejeweled is, and Call of Duty Mobile is having a huge thing. So if you make bespoke games for hardware and they work, that seems to be where the money's at. If you try and port something, it doesn't seem to be translating well. Born to the Grave says, the Xbox Series X and S has been underwhelming. Games need to feel next gen with innovation and frame rate increases out of the gate next generation. I would argue that both of the consoles have kind of stunk. This console generation, I think, has been very mid because mainly we will not see technology leaps like we did with previous generations. Now, I will say this. Some of the games and the way the technology of the PlayStation 5 was showcased was much smarter than how Xbox did it. However, Xbox had a lot of quality of life features that were really compelling, like the backwards compatibility and being able to hot swap between your games and the fact that there's no like cloud save issues. So there's that to take into consideration. Anyway, Phil continues.
So for us as Xbox, health of Xbox, health of our platform, and our growing games, most important things.
Yeah, and then they go on to talk about how big their booth is at Gamescom. It's a little bit of a weird transition, but it's a marketing show, so whatever. Yeah, exclusives matter, big games matter. It's definitely a big deal. Let's continue on reading the Schreier article and talking about what is going on here. Oh, one small thing. Let's say Xbox releases their handheld next year. They're releasing the same year the Switch 2 is going to come out. Nintendo has said multiple times that Switch 2 is likely sometime next year, or like not to expect anything of the showcase, but everybody's saying next year is the Switch 2. So if Xbox comes out against the Switch 2, again, they're in a hard spot because you're going up against Nintendo. And what does the Switch 2 look like? Let's continue on. Spencer admitted as much this week when asked about the decision to put Indiana Jones on PlayStation. We run a business. We just watched that. Or, reading between the lines, Microsoft let us spend $69 billion to buy Activision, and now we better deliver. But all of Spencer's change, yeah. Like, it's such an astronomical amount of money. I can't even picture that much money in a room. Like, imagine $70 billion in this room with me right now. What would that, could $70 billion even fit in here? I can imagine 40 million maybe, but what is, it's like 100 times $40 million. It's like the Scrooge McDuck safe where he's diving into the money. That's probably the Scrooge McDuck safe. I bet somebody's done this. How much? Scrooge McDuck's. How much money was actually in Scrooge McDuck's vault? All right. Okay, it was a lot. $522 billion and 36 cents. That's how much he actually has. The Scrooge McDuck vault is estimated to have gold value of $31 billion. So if you want, I don't know what made me make this comparison. How much money is in Scrooge McDuck's vault? In Power's parity estimation, a total gold value of $31 billion appears in the vault in some clips of the show, and around $210 billion is visible in others. So if you want to know, let's look at Scrooge McDuck vault. So if you want to know, oh my goodness. What does $70 billion look like? Well, here's the Scrooge McDuck vault. It's estimated that this is half that amount. And remember, this is a building filled full of gold. So they have to pay back that. That's what they have to pay back. All right. Sorry, let's continue on. But all of Spencer's changes have made the Xbox hardware less valued to potential audience. The best move, the winning move, would be for Spencer and his team to eschew exclusives and rethink its console strategy entirely. That's what I've been saying. It doesn't make sense. In 2017, oh, he says what I've been saying for like 2 weeks. I like this part a lot. In 2017, I wrote on Twitter that Xbox had clearly lost the hardware war to PlayStation and should consider transforming its consoles into living room PCs with open operating systems that could run any computer game. As the company behind the Windows operating system, Microsoft is in a unique position to sell machines that combine the convenience and affordability of consoles with the flexibility of PCs. Jason agrees with me. Apparently he said in 2017, so he's got that on me. Perry says, do you wish the Activision deal never happened, knowing it's impacted on Xbox's trajectory? No. I'm still glad that the Activision deal happened because Bobby Kodak's gone. I am not a fan of Bobby Kotick and how he did things. So, yeah. Why in the world do I get these weirdos over on Twitch? Anyway, yeah, I agree with Jason. Do it that way. At the same time, Spencer called the notion, at the time, Spencer called the notion strange. Let's see here. Xbox P3, hoping you can prove to some that we can compete. Not everyone has a PC that can play these Xbox games like Jason seems to believe. Microsoft clearly can't compete with Sony on exclusives. They should take the living room PC approach with Scorpio, succeed where Valve failed. Past 2 years have really put an end to any PS4 versus Xbox One debate. Not really a fair fight anymore. Scorpio needs to do something totally new. Strange comments. Xbox is having a good gen, our best yet. Xbox One's strong since launch, can always improve, but proud of where we are. So they're happy with where their console is, but I do agree with Jason. I think they should do an open hardware system. We know that life to date, how many Xbox One sold? At 65 million, I believe is the answer. Oh, 50, it's less than what I said. August 2024. I don't know who that's from though. It's VG charts. We don't do VG charts, chat. Who do we not use as a source, everybody? VG charts. Don't use VG charts as a source. Anyway, here's Wikipedia. And their source is 58 million. It's source number 46. It's from their Brazil presentation. That's right. There was the leaked Brazil presentation where they accidentally revealed how many Xbox Ones they sold. 79 million combined, 21 million. So 79 minus 21, it's 58. So yeah, that's the only official number that we've ever seen about how many of those consoles sold. So that's how we know how. By the way, if you haven't seen this tweet, I referenced it in my crazy console video. 79 million combined Xbox One and Xbox Series X consoles. You minus the 21 million sell through of the Xbox Series X and S. And that puts it at 58 million sold. So that's where it ended. I agree they should take over the living room. And that was the end of Jason's article. I'm going to link to it in chat because we referenced it a lot. But I do think that their strategy is going to change. And I think Xbox, as we know it, after this, Xbox as we know it will never be the same. I think Game Pass will continue because of its integration into the cloud streaming software. But it's very clear that they're prioritizing monthly active users. And guess what? They don't care where you play. This part I get, and I have talked about it many times. They don't care where you play. You can play on PC, you can play on console, you can play on PlayStation 5 now. And to them, they're just like, that's another monthly active user. That's another $70 in our coffers. And I think we continue to see that trajectory for Xbox. And I think the fact that it's changing the landscape of what the console industry looks like is very new and interesting interesting is the kindest way I can put it for people. And make no mistake, I will say this. More games are coming to PlayStation. No matter how you feel about that, more games will release on the PlayStation platform, and they are going to continue down that path. Now, let's talk about some of the reactions to this. I basically said, yup, what is your strategy? Oh boy, Scotty, I am not wearing pants. I am wearing shorts, and I have a blanket on my lap, like one of those old men by the fireplace. It gets a little cold in here because of the hardware, but yeah. How will Xbox make money on third-party games if they're on the platform? What? Do you think when people release games on another platform that they don't make money? Jay Spence? I don't really understand they still make a ton of money on those games. Like if they release a game on Steam, they still retain, I believe it's 70% of the revenue. If they release a game on PlayStation, there's a deal there, but that's still $40 million. So they'll still make money for sure. And I might have missed one of the questions. Mobox Gaming says, I completely agree. Whichever route Xbox wants to go with is fine by me, but a clear path forward is necessary to prevent gamers such as myself from becoming frustrated with figuring out which games will release where and when. If you have a PlayStation 5 and you know Indiana Jones is coming, you're not going to go out and get it anywhere. There's been a lot of studies done about this, actually. People just want to play wherever they have access. So if they can get access on their PlayStation, the younger demographic, the demographic that these people love for some reason, us olds are just easy money, I guess. So yeah, Paul Tassi has a good article from Forbes. I'll check that out in a second. Paul Tassi said, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was this bad of a ratio now. Plus a ton of those are Series S. This was really funny because I said, the source is you, Paul. This post is about how it was 5-1 for the May quarter. And Paul's like, LMAO. Oh my God. I write so much. I black stuff out. It was so funny because I was like, oh, who sourced 5-1? I thought it was 2-1. And it was Paul. And Paul forgot he was the source. So Paul's great. Big fan of Paul Tassi over here in Destin's head. I don't know. In my brain. I really like Paul a lot. Xbox needs to pick a lane. Some people are saying I should read the Paul Tassi article. So we'll go to that next, but people are right. They do need to pick a lane. They need to figure out what their strategy is. And right now I don't get it. Maybe I'm silly. Forbes has just absolutely atrocious design on their site. I'm trying. Do you want to see like what this is like trying to display it on my end? Here you go. Forbes.com, everybody. I can't keep my ad blocker on because they block ad blockers. Here you go. Adobe Acrobat. Turn your documents into action. There you go, Forbes. That one's a freebie. And like I have this app that lets me like scale stuff. If you know a trick for this where we can not look at the giant sidebar ad, then we would fix it. Mike Askew, good to see you. It's been a while. Here's Paul's take on it. In a recent newsletter, Jason Schreier Bloomberg noted that Microsoft's release strategy is all over the place to the point where even within Bethesda, there are 3 different release types happening at once. Starfield is Xbox only, and as of yet, Xbox has stayed Xbox only for another like month or so until the next thing. Good to see you, Maury. Starfield is Xbox only, and as of yet, stayed Xbox only. Indiana Jones will release first on Xbox and then 3 to 6 months later on PlayStation. Doom the Dark Ages is also releasing simultaneously. It is, for lack of a better term, a mess. At this point, Microsoft needs to simply pick a lane and one singular release strategy, even if it's not the one fans want to hear. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Chrome reading mode. How do I switch to reading mode? I don't know how to switch to reading mode, y'all. What's the keyboard shortcut to switch to reading mode? Chrome. Control L or Alt D. Let's try it. All right. That did not work. Neither of those worked. All right. I tried, everybody. I wholeheartedly agree with Paul, though. At this point, Microsoft needs to pick a plan and stick with it, even if it's one fans don't want to hear. There is no reversion possible now. Pandora's box is open, and Microsoft has demonstrated they are willing to share really any game that would have formerly been exclusive with even their oldest rivals like PlayStation. They are not simply going to walk that back, and in some cases like Call of Duty, they can't walk it back. The same is true for Overwatch and Diablo at Blizzard, which of course they aren't going to be stripped from PlayStation. Oh, this time we get an ad for come back and get credit for the work you've put in. Samantha, Purdue Global, got her whatever back. Anyway, the strategy has now has to be one of Band-Aid pulling, go third-party developer, release everything on Xbox and PlayStation 5 at the same time with, of course, one main caveat: Xbox players get all those games on Game Pass day one. PlayStation players have to buy them. I think that's as good as you're going to get given where things are now. I do agree with that. And it's just strange. Phil's laying the groundwork now to basically say we're going third party in the near future. Not third party, but every game is coming to PlayStation going forward. The question is, what happens to Gears, Halo, and others in the near future? Like, you have the Fire TV stick, you have the Samsung TV, you have the PlayStation 5, you got Call of Duty coming to the Switch. Like, that's going to be great in terms of sales for them, but they're going to change their release strategy drastically. And this is him saying to the hardcore audience, hey, it's happening, you guys. We're going full slate. That's my read on this thing anyway. There's little point trying to crawl back towards Sony and console sales. What was previously a 2-to-1 ratio in Sony's favor as of late, maybe closer to 5-to-1 according to analysts. Even Phil Spencer admits there's just no competing on that front anymore. That doesn't mean Microsoft has to stop making hardware. Sure, the PS5 plan will further erode console sales. Oh, now I'm getting a Cal Kids ad in Spanish. Thanks, Forbes. That doesn't mean Microsoft has to stop making hardware. Sure, the PS5 plan will further erode console sales, but that's a moot point now. If you want the most convenient and likely best place to play Xbox Game Pass games, that would still be an Xbox, fundamentally. Sure, many will just buy a PS5 instead, but at this point, Microsoft is so uninvested in meaningfully increasing console sales, it doesn't even matter. And that's the truth of it. Bet says, what do you think will happen to Game Pass if console sales plummet? I thought most of Game Pass users are on console, and what happens to game libraries? Your game library is still available on PC, but I mean, it's a good question. I actually don't have a good answer for that. I'm going to like your thing and give you a little heart. That's your first super chat. Thanks, you bait. It is a good question. I don't really know what they should do. I personally think that they should announce that more game, like, just do it going forward. I think if they're going to announce a bunch of games, do it all now and then move forward from it. Don't do what you normally do and do them one at a time. Don't do that. It hasn't been going well for you. Picking a strategy. Oh, another Purdue Global. Turn a respected degree into your career comeback. Thanks, Purdue Global. What is Purdue Global? I don't even know what that is. Picking a strategy for all games would at least make all this less confusing. Is it giving things away to Sony? Yes, but they're already doing that. And even games you may have imagined would stay exclusive, like Fable or Elder Scrolls 6, are now very much up in the air as to whether that will happen or not. You know what's really ironic? Elder Scrolls 6 was basically alluded to being exclusive. You want to know what I think today? No, it's going to PlayStation 5. Absolutely. Elder Scrolls 6 will be multi-plat. all the Bethesda games have largely been multi-platform. And I think they continue with that. And yeah, why do you care about all much of this stuff? Is this part of your job? Yeah. Why do I care about a tectonic shift in the way that consoles are delivered in games and how one of the main competitors are releasing their products? Why do I care so much? Long story short, it is different than anything we have ever seen the industry do before. Just like with the FTC case, and everybody's like, why do you find all this legal stuff interesting? We are getting a front row seat to get to watch the industry change in real time. This will have effects on PlayStation. This will have effects on Nintendo. This is going to have a drastic impact for all gamers. That's why I like talking about it. Let's say hypothetically, Xbox gets out of the hardware business. What does that mean for the price of your PlayStation games? PlayStation now has no competitor. PlayStation has nobody competing with them, trying to make them better. They already raised the price of their hardware. They raised the price of they were one of the first to raise the price of their games. I think that this will have a drastic impact on the entire industry and how we think about the industry. That's not necessarily a negative thing, but if you want to know why I find it interesting and why I talk about it, that's why. I get a lot of criticism for that. Like, look at this adult. He cares about things not being exclusive to Xbox anymore. Bro, you guys watched me build my PC on this channel. Do you think a guy who dropped that much cash to build a beefy PC so that he can do live streams and game on the same rig, do you think he's worried about Xbox losing a console exclusive? I play on the computer, y'all. But it's interesting from an industry perspective. The Black Prodigy says, it's going to get even more spicy when these games drop and run better on PS5 Pro. Yeah. I mean, I also have the theory about GTA 6 and where that's going to go. I play where the games are. The best place to play any game is PC, because if you're smart, you can upgrade your PC to play the games at their peak, usually. And then I have the consoles for any of the games that are exclusive to console. Kiri says, to be fair, Xbox has failed to keep PlayStation in check competitively. Steam is that driver's seat now. Kiri, to your point, the one avenue where they have kept PlayStation competitive is in the monthly active user space. They want to find new ways to get users in. But in terms of console hardware, Pactor called it on my channel. He said console hardware is not where it's at. Anyway, it's very much up in the air about whether Fable and Elder Scrolls are going to remain exclusives. Buy an Alexa. I've seen people criticize websites before, and I love Paul Tassi. I read all his stuff on Forbes, but oh my God, with these ads. And like, I used to run a website. I made websites back in the day, and you would always have to have your 300 by 300 square for ads, and you would have to have your rectangle over here. But this is like too much. The ad space takes up more space than literally the article. It's not even half. It's like maybe half the page. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to ramble. As Spencer recently noticed, Microsoft's Xbox division is still very much a business, and that's why these decisions are being made. The onsaid part here is that hardware is essentially a non-factor, and Game Pass sales are starting to hit a ceiling. So you sell actual copies of your games and other platforms as another revenue stream. That is absolutely right. They're just making too much money doing it. My2 says Activision Blizzard generates $6 billion a year through microtransactions. I believe it. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I believe you. It's insane. It devalues the Xbox brand, but guess what? That's already happened. The Xbox community has become barely a community at all recently in the wake of these confusing PlayStation announcements. what was once the idea that Xbox was buying devs to revive the console and create a slate to compete with Sony's much heralded first-party studios is simply not happening. And again, there's no going back now. Yeah, they've announced their biggest one. You can't close Pandora's box. It's open. And now Xbox fans are either going to say, I'm fine with it, or you know what's the crazy thing? You know what Xbox fans are going to say now? I need to buy a PlayStation 5. If you're like a console person, that's probably what you're eyeing. Oh, Xbox is going to do this? Okay, well then I guess I can wait a few months. I better buy the PlayStation. It's just insane how this is all folded out. Patrice, good to see you. Thank you. $13.99 Canadian. That's like $3. Thanks, man. Just kidding. I'm a Canadian, and we would always joke about the exchange rate. Microsoft will launch a Xbox PC console, an ecosystem available to third-party while unifying Battle.net and Game Pass into their own gaming store/launcher with access to third-party store launcher. Exactly. That's their move. That is like their only move, and I think they're laying the groundwork for it yet. So I absolutely agree with you. Xbox is currently caught between 3 or 4 different strategies right now. It needs to be simplified. Release Xbox Studio games on PlayStation 5 day one at full price. Release Xbox Studio games day one of Game Pass for free, in quotes, because you got to subscribe, with no confusing new tiers. Oh yeah, Game Pass is a confusing thing now. Rely on the idea that the best place to play those Game Pass games is Xbox hardware, even if cloud streaming and expensive PCs make Game Pass playable elsewhere. Admit to yourself that you have sacrificed what was once a loyal community in the name of we want everyone to play Xbox games at as many places as possible, which is finally manifested in PlayStation releases. You won't win them back. It's done. And I think the super hardcore, I hate to say this, I hate the super hardcore who care enough about Xbox releasing games on PlayStation. Like they're already done, or they've accepted it and they don't care. So Xbox has made the announcement, it's coming. And I think that argument about exclusives, it's just, yeah. Jay Slay said PlayStation has lost a ton of exclusives to Xbox though. What? RC Polygons, Destin, where is the IGN article for Concord about PlayStation's miss? I don't know if we write stuff like that, Polygons. Thank you for the $10, though. If this was Xbox, there would be 20 articles about Phil. I don't think we did that for Starfield, and I don't think we were going to do that for Concord. Let me just look here really quick. Because you're not the first. They're like, why aren't you dunking on Concord? It's like, okay. I did in my stream. Well, I don't see anything about Concord, y'all. I think Concord's going to come and go. If the rumor about Steam coming, I do think that, yeah. The only thing posted about Concord are the review in progress and my 11 minutes of gameplay that I did. But we covered about just how it's not good. Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to go off on a little bit of a ramble here. I've been doing gameplay on IGN, so I went to the Xbox event. Xbox provided the Uber to the event and home, full disclosure. And just so you know, I ate 3 chicken sandwiches. They're like the little ones. And I had some salad. So take for that what you will, but I did partake. Oh, and I had one of the carbonated waters. I know I let y'all down, but I got the Uber to and from the event. I ate 3 of the chicken sandwiches and I got the carbonated water. But no, I did not take the Funko Pop that the Funko guys were offering me because I didn't want to bring it home. Anyway, and for full disclosure, I did take, I was offered the same thing for Suicide Squad, which was much less favorable in preview territory. Anyway, So I went to the Xbox event, and I just want to highlight that I posted my gameplay from the event. So we got Winterboro gameplay, very cute game. And I know this is a little of an aside from what we were discussing. Our History Untold, Atomfall, Metaphor Refantasio, and Towerborn gameplay. I also did the first 21 minutes of World of Warcraft War Within, and I posted Concord gameplay, which everybody said literally nothing about the gameplay in the comments. I'm sure you can imagine what the comment section is. It's a lot of really positive comments and people just highlighting all the good things about the game. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. You know what the comments are. So if you want to see like what was at Gamescom or any of the Xbox games, I don't mean to brag or whatever. I don't mean to like bring up my PlayStation work. I don't do that very often, but I just wanted to say, if you were curious what they showed, including World of Warcraft, it's there. I'm really excited about the new World of Warcraft season. Let's get back to the Forbes article. Is this a great path forward? No, but I would argue it's better than whatever the hell is going on now, which is a confusing mess, hurting the brand and upsetting players anyway, and a system that is trying to have it both ways that's effectively no longer really possible. Here's what Xbox needs to do, y'all. Is that the real MBG, or is that just like a troll? It's got to be a troll. MBG wouldn't just come in here and say game name coming to PlayStation 5. Let's go to his channel, everybody. Oh, MBG _ PS5 _ 4 _ life. Wow, MBG, you really had me on that one. Ian John, there is no world where Xbox sells more consoles by putting exclusives everywhere. Eventually, the Microsoft console investment quality will go down. I don't think the game quality will go down. I think there's a way to victory for them, believe it or not. Sony, something blocks third-party PC releases too. It's not just Sony. A PC like Xbox won't circumvent this. It absolutely will. It will be a PC. It will be a PC. Xbox needs to come out and say that their games are coming to PlayStation. They need to message it in a way that they are pushing the industry forward to a brighter future. There is a way for them to come out of this looking like the good guy and trying to say something about the status of the industry. The reality is, they're on their back foot, so to speak, and they need to do this, right? But Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer have already laid the groundwork. We need to focus on making great games and all that stuff. Tom says, copium. I'm not coping. I'm talking about their messaging. Their messaging has been abysmal. There is a way that they could message this in a way that I think people could get behind. They have tremendously talented people that can do this better than Destin Legary can. And they've already set the groundwork to do this messaging. But that's what they need to say. They need to say something like that. And they need to stop with all this, like, will they, won't they? That's the most annoying thing about all the news. Beta says, what's your perspective on market hardware players going forward in the long run? Valve, a set of OEMs for Xbox, Apple. Nice try, Google. I don't know what you mean, but I do think that hardware is going to continue to not outsell previous gens of hardware. And all companies need to figure out new lanes of growth. I did an article on IGN called Xbox Isn't the Only One Rethinking Console Exclusives. Here's the video. It has 42,000 views and everybody kind of roasted me for it. But when you start looking at how these companies are changing, they're all rethinking their strategy. I did an extensive interview with a bunch of analysts, and basically, the long story short is the entire industry is resetting to the commercial reality, with some companies realizing they have overexpanded, become unfocused in their strategies, or become overstretched financially. Every company is dealing with that. When I say every company, I mean PlayStation and I mean Xbox. Nintendo, interestingly enough, has figured out their profit margins and what they need to do to remain successful. Nintendo's the only one who's figured it out. They've had it figured out for like 20 years. Xbox overextended, PlayStation overextended, and something like Concord's 8-year development cycle and colossal flop is going to be tough on them. Arcade says, do you believe the Half-Life 3 rumors? Yes, I do. I talked about them on the channel a few weeks ago, actually. And what's interesting, you'll remember Hiroki Tsutoki actually talked about that in the past.
And the other potential driver is
the
first-party title generation. Because in the past, as you all know, we wanted to popularize console. And the title was something, and the first-party title main purpose was to make the hardware or the console popular, right? It is true, right? But there's a synergy to it. So if we have a strong first-party content, not only with our console, but also other platforms like computers, and the first-party can be grown with multi-platforms, and that can help operating profit to improve. So that's another one that we want to practically work on. I personally think there are opportunities out there for improvement of margin. So I would like to go aggressive on improving our margin performance.
Yeah. So they've come out and sort of clarified what he said and how he said it since then. But I think that's an important moment in PlayStation history, because they came out and they basically said, yeah, we're going to release more stuff on PC. And Concord released day and date. Herman Hulst came out since then. He was made CEO after that. This was from February also. And here's the difference in what PlayStation said and what Xbox said. PlayStation said more stuff's going to be coming to PC. We're going to get more aggressive with our portfolio performance. It was very, very clear that their strategy was shifting. Meanwhile, Xbox came out and said, oh yeah, we're not going to put Indiana Jones on PlayStation. It's not one of the first 4. 6 months later, they change it. Right? So it sort of becomes this problematic issue. And some of the people, like this is Pierce Harding Rolls, clearly the macroeconomic backdrop will have contributed to companies looking to streamline their operations, cut their costs, reduce commercial risk, and cut investments. This is inevitable in the current climate and is relevant to all industries. He talked about wage inflation and such, and like overstretching themselves. While pure console exclusives still go some way towards driving console sales, more so for Nintendo than others, it has become clear that gamers now expect to be able to play games on a variety of devices, Daniel Ahmad said. Even in Japan, where the console has traditionally been dominant and 41% of gamers played a console game in the past year, only 14% of all gamers exclusively play on console, according to our 2023 survey of Japanese gamers. I said this article is from back in April. I'm very proud of this piece. And I think people miss the point. I highly recommend you go watch or read it. You can Google it and you can find the YouTube link also. But there's a lot of insight in that piece about where the industry is going. And that piece is what I believe. Here was the reaction to Xbox's recent strategy and Trier's article agreeing with him. Good summary of how schizophrenic Xbox's whole strategy is at this point. I think we're rapidly nearing the day this all gets taken out of Phil Spencer's and the Xbox team's hands, and Microsoft imposes a different strategy, which I think they have already been doing. Finding out that Hi-Fi Rush found a big audience on PlayStation is the best thing of this article. Yeah, so Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves saw growth on competing platforms. Something Xbox is doing is not working. And it's just the reality of the situation. And that's why we're going to see more games on other platforms, period. This is only confusing if you think Microsoft is still in the console business. They left it last generation. Their current strategy is feeding Game Pass with content as they believe it is the future. Their games have to be on other systems for this strategy to work. In addition to that, however, I would argue that Game Pass is sort of flatlined in growth, which is additionally problematic. So I don't know. Matt Pistella reacted apparently to some of the Gamescom stuff. Unpopular take time, Gamescom as a thing is great for vibes for people in the industry, and it is fun to celebrate gaming this way. But I have a hard time finding reasons to believe it drives sales better, or even as well as other promotional methods such as direct. Shrug. Big takeaways from the show. Indie going to PS5 being one of the biggest announcements and framed as a one more thing moment was interesting. It was stupid. It was absolutely ridiculous that they presented it in that way. Anyway. Any positive momentum was circumvented. All right, since we started the stream, Concord has lost another 40 players since we started streaming. In case you were wondering how Concord was doing. Let's see how Half-Life Alyx is doing. Okay, Half-Life Alyx also lost some users. So still above where Concord is. The only game available on a $700 headset has about twice the amount of users as Concord. Just to reiterate how problematic the Concord launch is. I don't want to seem like I'm dunking on it, but it's not good. It's bad for them. Okay. That's basically the Xbox stuff. One of the Xbox games that are coming down the line in the near future, though, is Avowed. I had a great opportunity to go play Avowed during a recent event. Full disclosure, Microsoft paid for the Uber to the event and back, and I had 3 chicken sandwiches, 1 bubbly water. But where I ate the sandwiches, the air conditioning wasn't really, it was like outside, it was kind of hot. So I think Avowed's going to be good, but maybe not that great. I'm just kidding. I did get the Uber and stuff, and chicken sandwiches were true. But yeah, the big people like you to be fully disclosed, and I get it. I do think that is important. Like, they didn't buy me a yacht or anything like that, but the Uber was expensive. So there's that. And I did eat the chicken sandwiches. But again, the food at the event, that's pretty standard for gaming events, and transportation being offered is standard. So yeah. But I do wonder how many more of those I'm going to get. Because on the one hand, for Suicide Squad, it was the same thing. They paid for the Uber and they had food at the event. And I said, I don't think Suicide Squad is going to be good. Let's go read my preview again. And then we'll go to Avowed really quick. So, same situation. WB, I love the WB PR person, by the way. I won't say who they are, but I really like them. They're really nice. And this is just like a crappy situation to be put in. It bummed me out. But
the attackers,
I've done it for Bungie. I've done it in the past. I'm always honest about how I feel about a game. So they had, you know what's so messed up? I remember the food they had at the Suicide Squad event. They had like a macaroni salad. It was like a cold macaroni salad, and they had salads and stuff. And they had like salmon. I didn't eat lunch today, so I think it's like 4:00. Anyway, I previewed Suicide Squad, and I said we played it and we didn't like it, and of course this made the rounds, and everyone was mad at me because it's not the final build of the game, and then I was right. And then I did a preview for Bungie, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out at the end of the day. Final. I said I wasn't sure about first hands-on impressive descent. Yeah, I basically said I wasn't sure if it'll come together, but I was hopeful that it was, and people were mad. People just get mad at me for my previews. It's a big reason I don't do reviews. Anyway, point is, like, the accommodation thing, it's sort of like whatever. At the end of the day, I'm going to do a job, and my job is to be honest with y'all. And y'all, I'll be honest with you, I really liked Avowed. I had a great time with it. I've been very critical of Avowed basically every time I've talked about it, right? I don't know where I put my footage. Xbox games. I'm trying to find my footage so I can bring it up here. I have my preview handy, but maybe I deleted it. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry, I know I'm like bringing the stream to a dead halt. I'll just do I'll bring up the video preview and mute it. Exports. Yeah, I wanted to bring up the raw footage so I could show you. All right, chill out. Chill out. 1 second. You know what? Maybe I can bring it up here. All right, here it is. It's on my Stadia Drive T. Who do you want to see? Which character do you want to see while I talk about Avowed? Okay, so we'll just mute the gameplay or we'll turn it down. All right, so I was brought out to this event. I got to play Avowed, and this is the B-roll that they sent over. I really enjoyed what I got to play of Avowed. I thought it was a lot of fun. Apparently, as far as I know, I knew it was a first-person game, but apparently you can also do third-person. This is one of the conversation moments, so I'm going to skip forward to after you talk to Sargamas here. And this is the Barbarian, I believe. The game is much prettier, even than I think this footage is doing it justice. I played in third person. I have seen other interviews where people commented on the fact that you can play in third person or first person. However, I really enjoyed it. I don't think any of the gameplay shown does it justice for how good it is visually and how fun it is. I think it's going to be much better than people give it credit for. The same way that Outer Worlds, I believe, was their other game that was sort of unique. It's really, really fun. And yeah, this is the raw file. This is the raw gameplay that they sent over. So this is a 4K file. They captured it 3 different ways. They captured it RGB full. They captured it RGB limited. And they captured one in 1080p. So all the previews, it's like, well, I master everything in 4K, but some of the scenes are in 1080. Some are RGB full. Some are like, you see how the blacks are like too dark over here? That's because they captured it in RGB full. And if we go over to the other one real quick, I believe, let me just check here. I can check the properties. Details. Yeah, so this one's 4K, but it was captured in RGB limited. You see how it's not as dark in the corners? Here, we'll use the sorry. I don't know if you guys care about this, but I do. Okay. Limited, full, limited, full, limited, full. Yeah, limited. Do you see the difference? What's the difference? Does one look a little brighter? Or like it has a gray overlay on it? So they captured using 2 different console settings, first of all. And now that I put it like side by side, you can see it. And then the other clip they provided, and I don't mean this to come off like I'm slamming them or anything like that, but capture's been like my thing for a decade. So it's like what I do, you know? So this one's RGB full, but you notice how it's smaller? So here's what they sent us. They sent us a 4K file, captured RGB full, RGB limited, 1080p RGB. So it's fine, but it's something I'm like, why didn't you let me capture? It would have been really nice to let me capture. I would have made sure it was RGB limited so your blacks weren't crushed, and I would have been capturing in 4K 60. So anytime I go to these events, and I think this is a product of a lot of these companies providing capture for people, but having no clue what they're doing, right? They're just really new to it, and they probably don't have anybody dedicated to it. Most of the people that are doing these setups, they're responsible for like 10 different things. So this is like not high on their priority list. So anyway, I previewed it. I really liked it. I think it's better than people are giving it credit for. Game Pass Tracker had a nice little roundup here of some of the stuff people are talking about, though. You know what the number one thing people are talking about? The fact that it runs at 30 FPS on Xbox Series S, FPS is unlocked on PC. I think, and what they said specifically in the interview is the lowest it will be is 30 FPS, meaning they could have a fluctuation in frame rate on console, and then it could go up to 60, but maybe not stable. And my hope would be that they hear the feedback about this 30 FPS comment and they just, for the love of God, give your players the option to play in performance so that you can at least hit 60. I don't find it acceptable that you're targeting 30 on the console anymore. You have the world's most powerful console and your games can't have an option to run at 60. Starfield was like a mess for the 30 FPS situation. Granted, what's really interesting though is there's a lot of hubbub about frame rate going into it, but once you actually play the game, nobody really seems to care. Like it just seems to be sort of whatever. Story takes place after Pillars of Eternity 2. Deep dialogue choices, sometimes over 7 dialogue options, are presented in conversations. 50 plus ending slides. Real quick, additional comment on 30 FPS. Should you be given the option? Yes, absolutely. Players should have the option to have a performance mode or quality mode. It's standard operating procedure for almost all games in the business. It's a little silly that they're trying to pass it off like, oh, this is like how we want to do the best visual. It's like, it's been very clear that fans want the option to play in 60. So it should be placed into development pipelines to develop that. Even Starfield, a year after its release or whatever, added the option to play in 60. So it's possible. It's strange to me that, yeah. Now I'm being said Xbox tax because I think consumers should have more options with their games. Sure, buddy. Whatever. Similar in size to Outer Worlds, but more dense. Obsidian's best combat system yet. Combat felt great. Range combat often feels better than melee. Melee combat can feel floaty at times. Mage, Barbarian, and Ranger available classes. Ranger felt the best to play. I would disagree with that. I felt like the Barbarian was great and fine. I don't really get what people didn't get about it. I would actually argue that I think the Mage was the best to play. Not the Ranger. But I didn't play the Ranger, so I guess I can't say, yeah. Many options to tackle objectives. On-mark question objectives. You can bypass entire combat situations using your abilities or interact with specific things. UI elements can feel a bit cluttered. Damage numbers, I don't agree with that. I don't think it was confusing or cluttered. That's a weird comment. You can be extremely evil if you choose to be so. I agree with that. Graphics, heavily praised. It looks so much better on PC. It looked so freaking good on PC. One of the assets that I pulled was actually this asset here, the NVIDIA DLSS trailer for Avowed. And if we just bring it up really quick, like this is what I was seeing at the event, just to give you an indication. This is what the game looked like when I played it. So it's hitting the aesthetic, but it is very pretty. It's very pretty at the same time, right? So they've been showing us all this gameplay and whatever, and this is what we experienced at the event. More of the game looked like this, as opposed to whatever we saw from the footage they provided. So it looked much better. And this is the NVIDIA trailer, because we were playing on beefy PCs, right? And they were, yeah. So this is RTX off. I think this is mostly what they've been sharing. But then what we experienced was RTX on, which looks better, right? Yeah, like this shot looks so good. And I think most of the footage we've been seeing is from console. I could actually go through and count the frames. I don't think this shot looks... Oh, this is actually where we found the virgin guy that I murdered. So in the game, you encounter a virgin, you climb up here, and then you go under, and this is the electrified water pool. So, yeah. I don't think the character. I don't think that character designs are particularly beautiful character design, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, point being, it looks pretty good, and I was just showing some footage to talk about really quick. Yeah. And how do I feel about Avowed? I think it's going to be a lot more fun than people give it credit for. What else we got here? Valve has announced Deadlock. Real question, everybody in chat. Can anybody get me into Deadlock? Because I don't know anybody playing. And if you have access, I would be happy to play. Oh, one of the big changes. Oh, yeah, Cast? Can you DM me on Twitter? I'll play. How much? Yeah. It's one of those like word of mouth things where you have to get access through a friend. My username on YouTube is the same on Steam. Cast Coder. All right, really quick. I'm going to add you as a friend. Oh, God, I don't know how to do it. How do you add friends on Steam? I don't remember. Friends in chat. There it is. Then I want to add a friend. This is so annoying. Add friend. And I want to find Cast Coder. And then I'm not allowed to talk about it. Here's my friend code, Cast Coder. Go for it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Here, add as I think I found you. There's a Cody and somebody else. I added both. One of them are going to be like, who is this Destin guy? And then I can play the super embargoed super secret game that we're not supposed to talk about. Game Pass subscribers will have to wait 12 months or more for some Ultimate's biggest releases. So PlayStation players are going to be able to play Indiana Jones before Xbox Game Pass core subscribers will be able to play the game. Microsoft says those who subscribe to Game Pass standard tier won't see day one game releases for up to a full year, if not longer, after they launch. Xbox clarified what day one releases will look like going forward in a recent Xbox Wire post, while Game Pass Ultimate players will continue to see brand new experiences launches on the service at no additional cost. This just further emboldens the claim what is happening over at Xbox. Your Game Pass, your lowest tier core players will not be able to play Indiana Jones until after PlayStation has had access. So here's how it goes. The $20 Game Pass tier, you can play Indiana Jones day one on Xbox, or you can buy the game for full price on Xbox. Then PlayStation's going to get it 3 to 6 months later, like I'm guessing 4 months later. And then the people on Game Pass standard, then they will get access. So, you know, the people who have more money, then PlayStation players get access, and then whatever. But to be fair, I guess they could just buy it, you know. Why does that tier exist? What? It's just a weird tier, you know? Yeah, I guess they would just have to buy the game. And then we talked about the Black Myth issue and how Black Myth is doing incredibly well. Ooh, the Final Fantasy director talked about Xbox. I mean, that's just a news report. I don't know why you think IGN News is terrible. What else? Let me just see. I had a whole bunch of stuff brought up, so I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss anything notable. The Scrooge McDuck comparison for how much money Xbox needs to bring back is good. Here's what Jez Corden said about all of this. I think Xbox should pick some franchises, stuff like Halo, and make them permanently Microsoft platform exclusive, Xbox Game Pass devices, Windows, whatever. I think every service needs flagship exclusives from Netflix and beyond. I doubt Microsoft agrees, though. I think that could be interesting. Paul Tassi chimed in. Would be incredible development to go back to a situation where it's just Halo, Gears, and Forza as the big exclusives all over again, lol. What do you think about that? Black Myth is a Game of the Year contender. That's my take on it, if you were curious. if you were curious about my take on it. But I think it's clear that Microsoft is going full slate. That's my take on it. A lot of people, like I saw the Iron Lords podcast made comment about how he's his Chiron or his lower third is Microsoft gaming. It's actually been like that for like 2, 3, 4 years. So that's not really that new, if I'm being totally honest. Yeah, Black Myths is Game of the Year contender for me. They made a lot of money off the games. See, here's the interesting thing, though. Like this whole 30 FPS thing, it's not just Xbox games. Monster Hunter Wild's frame rate could be limited at 30 FPS on consoles, rumors claim. Like everybody is talking about games running at 30. So I don't think it's the Xbox specific. It's just consumers have made their voices clear. We want the option. We want to make the choice, right? And that's largely all I had. There is rumor, just real quick on the Half-Life rumors. I already did a whole video about this, and none of this is new. We know somebody released on their resume that it's Desert White Sands or whatever, and that it's semi-open world, dynamic weather cycles, gravity shifting, and it's returning to Zen. So like there was another update about the Half-Life 3 stuff, but yeah. So the Towerborn team did talk about why they're launching on Steam first. Here's what they said. Getting the game into players' hands is super important to us. Christopher said during an Xbox Gamescom live stream, we want to have that discussion with the community and have them be a part of the game building. It's what Stoic has always done from our very first game. And so getting there, being able to have that, have the input and take it in Steam just happens to do that well for us. We want to make sure we are fully prepared for when we come to game preview next year and have an expansive number of players coming in when we're truly ready for them. We don't want to disappoint. And I think that's totally reasonable. Honestly, I was a little surprised because again, it's one of those things where Microsoft's like Xbox first. It's coming to Xbox first. We're going to get Towerborn. And everybody's like, oh, Towerborn looks great. I'm super excited about it. And then that's not actually the case. So it's just strange. Final Fantasy 16 director would love Final Fantasy 16 to come to Xbox. And I think that's everything for the week. But make no mistake, these changes, not only will they change Xbox. Xbox is never going to be the same again. It will change how the industry is viewed. It will change strategies at PlayStation. It's going to change Nintendo and how Nintendo decides to release things. And part of it, I don't think it's because of Xbox's leadership. I think it's because the industry has changed more than any of us even realize. And I think that's the big takeaway from all of this for me. To cap off the stream, I want to do one more thing because I'm probably not going to get another time to do it. Yeah, this is the only time in history where prices have gone up instead of down. Think of it that way. Guys, there's this little game that some people are talking about. It's I can't remember its name. I'm blanking on its name. It's got a king in it. And you know, it's some game. I don't know. I'm going to check it out, just see what it's all about. And I think that's how we're going to cap off the stream. I end the stream today a little bit frustrated with the messaging. I got to change my audio. 1 second. Spoilers for what game it is. Expressing a little bit of frustration with the messaging. This is the second time I played it. Samson said, PS and PS Gamer here. I need a Age of Empires like Halo on PC. Simplicity of Halo Wars series game mechanics makes it meh. I need more micromanagement. You were going to like Our History Untold, I think. Because I played that and I still don't know what I did. But everybody wasn't too mad about the gameplay, so I guess I did okay. I don't know how well this is going to be balanced. But I'm at the point in Blacksmith Wukong. I gotta go run up here and... Oh, shoot. Did not mean to do that. I'm gonna play a little bit of Blacksmith Wukong, and what? I'm gonna rest again because I screwed that up. What's your PC specs, bro? Good. I got the 3D Ryzen thing. Whoops. Oh, I hate that archer, man. Come get it. Where's that archer? Yeah, come get it. I'm like way too close to the monitor to play this. What? I hate you. I'm just like stun locked. So this part is kind of annoying because you have these archers you gotta deal with. You get the double charge. I took the time to kill a baby head boss, so I have a lot of heals, thankfully.
The head is a treacherous path, young one. Don't forget the spell you just learned.
Man, I hate you.
I see you.
Oh, the big guy. Honestly, I just want the archers gone. I can kill this guy if the archers are not there. Ow. Why'd you lock onto him? Guys, I gotta move back. I like can't sit this close to the monitor, sorry. It's definitely not because I'm bad at video games. Let's do it. Another archer, great. The archer on the roof is the only one I don't really know how to deal with. All right, did I clear it? I think there's another spot up top where you can rest. Anyway, this is Blacksmith Wukong, if you didn't know. I really enjoy it. Having a good time so far. What? No! All right, great. What? Cheap. Trying to be cheap with you because you're stuck on that piece of geometry. Oh, I'm out of stamina. All right. Did I get hit? I don't know. He's dead though. I really want to kill the archers. I hate the archers. Is there a trick for them? There has to be a trick. I'm not going to figure out how to hit that guy. Fun fact, Wukong was a character in Paragon back in the day. Oh, I know that. That's cool. I think this game looks very pretty too. That's another thing about it. This is cool. I did see they released a trailer where a lot of this stuff is based on real world locations, which I think is really neat.
Master promised to reward.
Yeah. Nope. I have a thing set where I get a bonus in damage when I run. Yeah, okay, you can reset the battlefield, I forgot. So yeah. Yeah, enemies will shoot each other and stuff like that. What do y'all think about this game? Do you think it's pretty? Do you like it? I just know that I'm having a good time playing it. And I have beat this bear before, and then I stopped at chapter 2. Because it's this, and then we go right into chapter 2. There's no way I do this in one. What do you think?
He once told me, out of sight,
I
out of mind is a fool's task. Seeing but seeing through is what wise men do. But didn't he turn mad?
I think it's pretty good. It's my game of the year. I think it's really good. Yeah, what you got, buddy? Yeah, go for it. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Time to back up. Well, let's see. I need a sec. I need to drink this. Oh boy. Oh, I missed! Can I do this? He's on fire. I mean, I'm doing well. Oh, yeah. Got the fire first. Ouch. Get away from me. Oh, come on. Dodge. What do you think's over there? Yeah, nice try. Oh, yeah, I gotta do this really quick. Right. Oof! I don't have any heals left. This is gonna be close. Got one. No. Stop being so big. I dodged that!
Can you see these flames?
Alright, that was almost a one and done. I did okay. Did okay. Anyway. That was pretty close, right? Like, I did pretty well? I think I did pretty well. Let's give her another shot. Why does my, Oh, I did get one of the things. Isn't there one that's like drinking out of your gourd gives you more health? When an enemy is immobilized, massively increases... I don't really need that. Cloud step. I don't really need that right now. Considerably increases damage reduction. I don't really know how that's... I don't use pillar stance. What's thrust stance? Oh. I just thought... I didn't see that before. I thought there was like something for the gourd. Increases stamina recovery rate. Makes each initial dodge more agile. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, well I only have 1 point. Let's give her another shot. I did pretty good. I almost did it in one. That was me being weird. I think I got him though. Do something. I'm sorry, were you gonna do something there for a second? I didn't even touch this guy yet. Let's go. Oh, you're gonna do that nonsense. That's a dodge. Go hit the thing. Psych! Come here, buddy. Oh man, I'm gonna chill out. You're getting mad. Nope. Oh, that was a waste. I can't hit him. I gotta use that. Bye. Booyah! Second try on my second portrait. Hopefully it lets me record it.
Cunning wretch!
What's clickbait?
Spare your sorry life for today! Fortune is no longer
I covered all the Xbox stuff at the beginning. We're at the end of the stream. I just wanted to beat this boss today. And I knew I wouldn't get time to return, so.
And rebuild everything anew!
Dang it, Destin, I'm waiting for you to stop streaming so I can watch the recording and listen to your discussion. You can't do it live? Do I not allow live rewind? I thought you could just do that on YouTube.
Sage, mercy, young sage, have mercy. I was just a pawn of the celestial court. If
God, the
given
English
a
is not
choice,
great.
Who dared to challenge the mighty wrecker of the celestial
I use that
palace?
feature all the time.
His words ring true. No matter how daring he was, he had not the nerve to harm the great sage. There must be someone else pulling all the strings.
Exactly, and this thing is eerie. I had no idea how to make use of its power. Except to enshrine it up there, tricking
I really want to know if
lesser
this is
wise
recording.
into offerings.
Or not. H, shadow
If you
play.
pardon me, I'll go back to Guan
I don't think I can
to
record
atone for
from
my actions
streaming.
and be put back on the engaging band. You will never see me
Details.
out there anymore.
No.
Oh, ignore his nonsense. Go now, little monkey. Go and retrieve the great sage's
All right, guys,
relic.
I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I greatly appreciate you hanging out. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell if you haven't watched. Y'all are awesome. I am really enjoying this game and talking with you on Sundays about it. Thank you so much to all the members for supporting. This has to be updated because Aries gifted 10 members last week and new members have joined. But thank you so much. If you want to become a member, click that join button. I do appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you for the next one. In the meantime, check out that crazy theory I had about the console. Bye for now, everybody.